Small cracks sink ships. On the slopes of Long's Peak in Colorado, there's a huge tree trunk that stands as a remnant of what was once a massive tree. Botanists believe this tree lived for about 400 years. It was around when Columbus landed in El Salvador, and it was half its current age when the Pilgrims established Plymouth. Throughout its long life, it was struck by lightning 14 times and endured countless snowstorms and tempests, but continued to survive. Eventually, though, it was brought down by a swarm of tiny beetles that gnawed at its bark layer by layer, bit by bit, every day without stopping. Gradually, the mighty tree became hollow and fell. Thus, a grand old tree that had withstood the test of time, lightning, and storms was ultimately defeated by tiny beetles small enough to be crushed between a person's fingers. Many of us have also triumphantly overcome life's thunderstorms and earthquakes, only to be brought down by petty annoyances and trivial grievances. These little things are like those tiny beetles that can destroy our lives bit by bit. So never let these beetles sneak into your heart when you can easily crush them between your fingers. 2. A story about borrowing money. In real life, almost everyone gets asked to lend money at least a few times, but most of us find it hard to say no for various reasons. The hardest thing to do is what? It's borrowing money. When someone lends you money during tough times, you naturally see them as a benefactor. It's not just about money. Even a little help means a lot. People like that are rare these days. If you meet one, cherish them for life. When someone lends you money when you are in a tight spot, it's not because they have too much money and don't know what to do with it. It's because they want to help you during your tough times. What they lend you isn't just money. It's their kindness, trust, encouragement, belief in your potential, and an investment in your future. Hoping that friends can always trust you without hesitation is tough. Losing someone's trust is a huge loss in life. Please value trust highly. The sincerity of friends is a lifelong treasure. Also, remember, someone who pays for meals first isn't necessarily rich. They value their relationship with you more than money. In a partnership, if they let you have the better deal, it's not because they're dumb, but because they know how to share. At work, if they take on the hard tasks, it's not to show off, but because they are responsible. When there's a conflict and they apologize first, it's not because they're wrong, but because they know what's more important than their ego. Someone willing to help you doesn't owe you anything. They see you as someone worth valuing. People help you because of a precious connection, not out of obligation. Don't take it for granted. 3. The destination. It was a foggy morning on July 4, 1952, when Florence Chadwick stepped into the water to swim across the Catalina Channel to the California coast. Long-distance swimming wasn't new to Florence. She had already swum the English Channel both ways. That morning, the water was freezing, and the fog was so thick that she could hardly see the boats in her group. After swimming for more than 15 hours, she asked to be pulled out of the water. Florence's coach tried his best to encourage her, telling her they were close to the shore, but she could only see fog. So she gave up, less than half a mile from her goal. Later she said, "I'm not excusing myself, but if I could have seen the shore, I would have made it." It wasn't the cold, the fear, or the exhaustion that defeated Florence Chadwick. It was the fog. 2 months later, at the same channel and the same distance, Florence Chadwick set a new record because this time she could see the land. Often we fail, not because we are afraid or because of pressure from others or any other reason, but simply because we can't see our goal. 4. Red light. 2 friends stopped their car at a red light. The driver stayed silent while the passenger sighed and said, "Red lights waste so much time. With this amount of time, someone could write a whole book. No wonder everyone gets annoyed when they have to stop at red lights." The driver still said nothing. The passenger then tapped his hand. "Are you listening to me?" "No." "Why not?" "Because I'm busy." "What are you doing? I don't see you doing anything." "I'm wishing for good luck," the driver replied. "I've gotten used to thinking of and wishing good luck to a family member or friend whenever I stop at a red light. I'm really glad I have time to wish good luck to so many people. Without these red lights, I'd be too busy to remember to do it during the day." 5. Only one person. A lot of people came to the wedding. The neighbor called his worker and said, "Hey, go see how many people are at the wedding." The worker went over. He put a piece of wood on the doorstep and sat on the wall waiting for people to leave the house. They started to go home. Everyone who walked out tripped over the wood, cursed, and then kept going. Only one old lady tripped over the wood, stopped, and moved it aside. The worker went back to his boss. The boss asked, "Were there a lot of people?" The worker replied, "There was only one person, and it was an old lady." "Why do you say that?" "Because I left a piece of wood on the doorstep. Everyone tripped over it, but no one bothered to move it. They all acted like sheep. Only one old lady moved the wood so others wouldn't trip. Only a real person would do that. So there was only one person there." 6. Hat and shoes. A torn hat and an old pair of shoes were thrown in a street corner. The old shoes said to the torn hat, "Hello, dear friend, I recognize you. We once worked together in a fashion store, don't you remember?" The torn hat looked at the old shoes with disdain. "Who is your friend? I belong to the upper class while you are part of the lower class." "Why are you so arrogant?" "It's the truth. People respectfully place me on their heads, but you are always under people's feet." Just as the hat finished speaking, a street sweeper came along and swept both of them into the trash bin. 7. Wealth. When I was a child, my family lived in Minnesota. Everyone in the area loved eating watermelons. Uncle Bernie, a friend of my dad's, owned the biggest watermelon farm around. Every summer, when the first watermelons were harvested, Uncle Bernie would call all the kids in the village. We would sit on the barn wall, swinging our legs happily and waiting. Uncle Bernie would take a big knife and cut open the first watermelon, giving each of us a big slice. We only ate the heart of the watermelon, the middle part, which was the reddest, sweetest, almost seedless, and the best part. The rest was discarded. My dad said, "Uncle Bernie is truly a wealthy man." Back then, I thought my dad meant that Uncle Bernie was a successful businessman. Many years later, I realized that my dad admired Uncle Bernie not so much for his material wealth, but for knowing how to take a break from work, gather the kids, and enjoy the heart of the watermelons with them. Wealth is just a matter of mindset. Most of us, no matter how much money we have, never feel we have enough money or time to sit and enjoy the heart of the watermelon. I hope you still have enough time to enjoy the fruits of your efforts and the little pleasures life gives you. That is the heart of the watermelon, the sweetest, the best, while letting go of the rest, the troubles, the annoyances, far away. 8. The echo in the deep forest. There was a mischievous boy who often got scolded by his mother. One day, angry with his mom but unable to confront her directly, he ran to a valley near a dense forest. He shouted with all his might, "I hate you!" To his surprise, a voice echoed back from the forest, "I hate you!" Frightened, he ran back to his mother, crying. He couldn't understand why someone in the forest hated him. His mother took him by the hand, led him back to the forest, and told him to shout, "I love you." Amazingly, as soon as he finished, the same voice echoed back, "I love you." Then his mother explained, "My dear, this is a law of life. What you give is what you get. If you sow the wind, you will reap the whirlwind. If you hate others, they will hate you. If you love others, they will love you." Hatred always leads to more hatred, and violence begets violence. Only love can create more love. Violence and hatred cannot change society. Only true love can change people's hearts. Live nobly. Respond to hatred with love. The most beautiful echo of a loving act is always the echo of peace from within our hearts.
If you like this video, please comment 1. And if you don't, comment 2. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time.
9. The House of Mirrors. Once upon a time, in a distant village, there was a large house with 1,000 mirrors. A cheerful little dog heard about it and decided to visit. It entered the house with a happy face, wagging its tail quickly and perking up its ears. The little dog was amazed to see 1,000 other dogs, all happy and wagging their tails just like it. It smiled, and all the other dogs smiled back warmly. As it left the house, the dog thought, "What a wonderful place. I will come back many times." In the same village, there was another dog, not very happy. It also decided to visit the House of Mirrors. Slowly, it climbed the stairs, head down, and looked inside. Seeing 1,000 unfriendly faces staring back, the dog barked and was scared to see 1,000 dogs barking back at it. As it left the house, it thought, "What a horrible place. I will never come back here again." All the faces in the world are mirrors. So, what do you see reflected in the faces of the people you meet? 10. Who knows how to eat sparingly? One day, the little animals in the forest held a fun contest. It wasn't about eating fast or eating a lot, but about eating sparingly. Rabbit, hedgehog, and squirrel entered the contest. The judges gave each contestant 10 beans. The one who could make the beans last the longest would win the prize. Rabbit ate 1 bean per day and lasted 10 days. Hedgehog ate half a bean per day and lasted 20 days. Squirrel, though small, ate all the beans in just 4 days and was sure to come in last. The judges waited for Hedgehog to finish the last half bean and then happily invited the bird Warbler with its far-reaching voice to announce, "The champion of eating sparingly is Hedgehog." Everyone cheered for Hedgehog. At that moment, Squirrel stepped forward and said, "Judges, I still have 2 beans left." Warbler asked, "Where are those 2 beans?" Squirrel replied, "Please come with me, judges." Then, Squirrel led the whole crowd to a small patch of land on the edge of the forest and stopped. Warbler, not seeing the 2 beans, urged, "Where are your 2 beans?" Squirrel pointed to 2 small bean plants with leaves and stems and said, "Here they are. I planted them 20 days ago." Everyone then exclaimed in amazement, "Great job! Squirrel is the best." With those 2 bean plants, Squirrel would have hundreds more beans. 11. The Kiss. The train I was on stopped at a small station. It was almost dawn and the sky was still full of stars. When the train stopped and the doors opened to let passengers in, a blast of cold air filled the car. 2 more people boarded my car, a man and a young boy. The boy took a while to find his seat as he had to squeeze past the legs of the other passengers. While his father sat by the door, the boy sat by the window, among people who looked sleepy, grumpy, and tired from a night of poor sleep. As the train entered a tunnel, the boy slipped from his seat and I felt his hand press against my knee. He leaned over and I thought he wanted to say something. I bent down to listen, but to my surprise, the boy kissed me on the cheek. At that moment, the train came out of the tunnel. The boy returned to his seat and looked out the window, appearing very happy. I was really surprised. Why would a boy kiss a stranger on a train? I was even more surprised when, every now and then, the boy stood up and kissed the adults sitting next to him, one by one. Confused, we looked towards the man. The boy's father explained, "He is very happy to be healthy again and alive. He was very sick for a long time." The train stopped at the final station. The man and the boy blended into the crowd. I could still feel the boy's kiss on my cheek, a kiss that made me both happy and thoughtful. How many adults share kisses to celebrate being alive? The boy didn't just give me a sweet kiss. He also left me a message. Don't let yourself die before your heart stops beating. 12. The rabbit outsmarts the tiger. Once upon a time, in a deep forest, there was a terrifying tiger. Many animals had fallen prey to him. The tiger had his eyes set on catching the rabbit for a hearty meal. One day, the rabbit hopped along merrily and stumbled upon the hiding tiger. Realizing the danger, the rabbit panicked and started to run. The tiger leaped forward and said, "Where are you going? Run straight into my mouth, rabbit." Suddenly, the rabbit had an idea and shouted, "Cake!" "What? Cake?" the tiger asked. "Yes, Mr. Tiger, please don't eat me yet. Let me give you 10 delicious cakes first. How about that?" The tiger loved cakes. Exchanging one rabbit for 10 cakes is a good deal, he thought, and agreed happily. "Wait a moment," said the rabbit. "Cake, bring the cake here, Mr. Tiger." "Hurry! Let me taste it," the tiger impatiently urged the rabbit. The rabbit stopped him and said, "Wait, Mr. Tiger, you need some patience. The cakes need to be baked first." Then the rabbit started a fire to bake the cakes. "Rabbit, how long do I have to wait?" the tiger asked. "Count to 100 and the cakes will be ready," said the rabbit. The tiger started counting, 1, 2, 3, and smelled the delicious aroma. Unable to resist, he grabbed one of the hot cakes and swallowed it whole. The cake was so hot that it burned the tiger's mouth. He roared in pain, "Ouch! Help me!" In agony, the tiger ran deep into the forest. The rabbit, thrilled, jumped up and down. "Ha ha! He fell for it!" The cake the tiger swallowed was actually a red-hot stone. The tiger's throat was so burnt he couldn't eat anything else. Even when mice ran over his feet, he didn't react, which was very unusual. But once his burn healed, the tiger went back to hunting small animals for food. One very cold winter day, as snow piled up, the rabbit bumped into the tiger again by a nearly frozen lake. The tiger growled, "You tricked me before. Now I'll crush you to pieces." The rabbit replied, "I don't want to argue today. Besides, I'm not worth eating." "What do you mean by that?" asked the tiger. "Listen to me. I'm willing to offer you 1,000 fish as a gift," said the rabbit. 1,000 fish? Really? "Yes. If you follow my instructions, you'll catch 1,000 fish." The tiger thought, "All right, I'll get the fish and then eat the rabbit." He agreed, but only if the rabbit was tied to a tree. After tying him up, the rabbit instructed the tiger to put his tail in the water. "Your beautiful tail is the best bait. Soon 1,000 fish will bite your tail," said the rabbit. You have a point," the tiger agreed. The north wind blew fiercely. The tiger stood still, waiting for the fish to bite his tail. Despite shivering in the cold, he endured it for the fish. Soon, the lake began to freeze. The tiger, facing away from the lake, didn't notice. He asked, "Rabbit, is it ready now?" "Not yet, not yet. You've only caught 100 fish so far." A while later, the ice had solidly trapped the tiger's tail. The rabbit saw this and said, "Now it's ready. You've caught 1,000 fish, Mr. Tiger." "Really?" "Yes. Use your strength to pull the fish out, Mr. Tiger." "It's strange. Why is my tail so heavy?" the tiger complained. "Of course it's heavy. 1,000 fish are biting your tail," said the rabbit. The tiger struggled to pull his tail out but couldn't free it from the ice. The rabbit laughed loudly. "Ha ha! Caught a big tiger!" The tiger realized he had been tricked again, but it was too late. He thrashed wildly while the rabbit bit through the rope, tying him to the tree. "Mr. Tiger, you'll have to wait until the snow and ice melt next year to get free," said the rabbit as he dashed away. "Hoo-hoo!" the tiger cried miserably. 13. "How many friends do you have?" An old man turned to me and asked, "How many friends do you have?" I responded, "Why do you ask? I have 10 or 20 friends, but I can only remember a few names." He smiled knowingly and nodded sadly. "You must be very lucky to have so many friends. But think about what you're saying. There are many people whose names you don't even know. A friend is not just someone to say hello to. A friend is someone whose shoulder you can cry on, someone you can confide in with all your troubles and who lifts your spirits. A friend is a hand that pulls you out of darkness and despair when everyone else you call friends has pushed you in. A true friend is an unwavering ally who cannot be swayed or bought, a voice that keeps your name alive when others have forgotten. But most importantly, a friend is a heart, a strong and steadfast wall. From these friends, we receive the greatest love. So think about what I've said. Every word is sincere. And answer me again, young lady, how many friends do you have? I smiled at him and replied, "At least I have one friend, sir. Thank you for being my friend." 14. The Black Swan. Once upon a time, there were two siblings playing together at home while their parents were working in the fields. The younger brother was playing in the yard, and the older sister had gone out to find more friends to play with. Suddenly, a black swan swooped down and carried the younger brother away. When the sister came back and couldn't find her brother, she started looking for him frantically. As she was searching, she came across a bakery oven with bread sizzling inside. The oven cried out, "Little girl, the bread is about to burn. Please help me." "I'm sorry. I'm very busy. I'm looking for my brother," the girl replied, running away. But after a few steps, she heard the sizzling get louder, so she turned back, took the bread out of the oven, and then continued her search. The girl hurried on to find her brother and came across an apple tree laden with fruit, its branches bending under the weight. "Little girl, please stop for a moment. My branches are heavy with apples, which are my children. Please help me a little," the apple tree begged. "I'm sorry. I'm very busy. I'm looking for my brother," she said, running forward. But hearing the tree's sigh, she turned back, picked some apples to lighten the branches, and then quickly ran off. The girl continued running and came upon a small stream blocked by a big rock. "Little girl, please stop and help move the rock blocking my flow," the stream pleaded. "I'm sorry. I'm very busy. I'm looking for my brother," she replied, running on. But hearing the stream's sobs, she turned back, pushed the rock aside to let the water flow, and then ran on again. The girl ran deeper into the forest, searching everywhere but couldn't find her brother. As the sun was about to set, she became very worried. Suddenly, she saw a hedgehog and asked, "Hedgehog, have you seen my brother?" "Kind girl, your brother was taken by a witch who lives in that wooden house. The black swan brought him to her. She's lighting the oven, preparing to cook your brother for dinner," the hedgehog answered. The girl was close to tears but asked the hedgehog to lead her to the witch's house. The witch was busy lighting the oven, and the brother was locked in a small room next door. The girl climbed through a window, grabbed her brother, and they both ran away as fast as they could. 15. Strengths and weaknesses. In a forest, there was a big, strong tree with wide branches that covered a large area. Because of its size and strength, the tree considered itself the king of all plants. One day, looking down at the ground, it saw small, weak grass growing around it. The tree mocked them with a smirk. One day, a storm swept through the forest, causing all the trees to sway. The big tree was uprooted and died. However, the grass survived, standing tall and enduring many more storms. The story shows that even though the tree was big and strong, it couldn't withstand the storm, while the small grass did. Everyone has different strengths and weaknesses. The important thing is to recognize your own. This idea led a master to create Aikido, a martial art for the weak to defeat the strong. Today, I learned that I might be better at math than my desk mate, but not as fast a runner, that I might sing better than the singer on TV, but not dance as well, that I can wear standout clothes, but might not attract as much attention as the girl next to me, and that I can write about anything but my writing might not catch your interest. I don't feel superior when I'm better at something, nor do I feel disappointed when I'm not as good at something. Like the grass, I understand my own strengths and weaknesses. If you find these stories inspiring and they motivate you to take action, please comment 9. If not, comment 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time. 16. The elephant rope. A man was walking past a group of elephants. Suddenly he stopped, surprised to see that these huge animals were only held by a small rope tied to their front leg. There were no chains or cages. It was clear that the elephants could break away from the rope and run off at any time. But for some reason, they didn't. The man saw a trainer nearby and asked why the elephants just stood there and didn't try to escape. "Well," the trainer said, "when they were younger and smaller, we used the same size rope to tie them. At that age, it was enough to hold them. As they grew up, they believed they couldn't break the rope. They think the rope can still hold them, so they never try to break free." The man was amazed. The elephants could escape whenever they wanted, but because they believed they couldn't, they stayed stuck where they were. Like those elephants, many of us go through life thinking we can't do something just because we failed once before. We miss out on many opportunities that might only come once in a lifetime. You see, failure is just part of learning. Never give up on life's challenges just because you have failed before. Keep moving forward. 17. The eagle chicken. Once upon a time, on a large mountain, there was an eagle's nest on the hillside. In the nest, there were 4 big eagle eggs. An earthquake shook the mountain, causing one of the eagle eggs to roll down to a chicken farm at the mountain's base. A hen decided to incubate the big egg. One day, the egg hatched into a beautiful baby eagle. Sadly, the baby eagle was raised as a chicken. Before long, the eagle also believed it was just a chicken. The eagle loved its family and home, but it still longed for something greater. Then one day, while playing in the yard, the eagle looked up and saw other eagles soaring high in the sky. "Oh," the eagle exclaimed, "I wish I could fly like those birds." The chickens laughed. "You can't fly with those birds. You're a chicken, and chickens don't fly high." The eagle kept looking at its true family, dreaming of flying high with them. Every time the eagle spoke of its dream, the chickens told it that it was impossible. Eventually, the eagle believed this to be true. The eagle stopped dreaming and continued living as a chicken. After a long time living as a chicken, the eagle died. In life, if you believe you are ordinary, you will live an ordinary and unremarkable life just as you believe. So, if you've ever dreamed of being an eagle, chase that dream, and don't live like a chicken. 18. The little ants are so kind. An old ant lived alone in a small, cramped, and damp nest under a mound of dirt. She had been sick for a few days, groaning in pain. The little ants, while gathering food, heard her groans as they passed by her house and quickly ran in to check on her. "Grandma, why are you groaning?" "Oh, my arthritis is hurting me so much. My house here is damp and lacks sunlight. It's very uncomfortable, kids." The little ants quickly said, "Then let us take you to get some sunshine." The lead ant directed the group to bring back a freshly fallen yellow banyan leaf. They all helped Grandma Ant onto the leaf, then carried it together to a sunny and airy spot. Grandma Ant felt so much better and more comfortable. The little ants then split up to find a new house for her. After a while, they returned and said, "Grandma, we found you a new home that is dry and sunny. Would you like to move there?" Grandma Ant, with tears in her eyes, replied, "Oh, that would be wonderful." The little ants gathered around, lifted the leaf again, and carried Grandma Ant to a nearby sunflower. Living in her new home, Grandma Ant was overjoyed and told the little ants, "Thanks to your help, I got a sunbathe and now have a new, beautiful, dry home. I feel much better now. You little ones are so kind. Thank you so much." 19. The Beggar's Rice Can. In a remote and forgotten village, there were rumors that the prince of the country would visit. The villagers, often seen as low class and insignificant, were excited, feeling like their village was finally being noticed. The entire village buzzed with excitement every day since hearing the news. No one was more excited and agitated than an old beggar in the village. Not knowing the exact day the prince would arrive, the beggar sat by the roadside daily, hoping the prince would give him some money, at least enough to buy rice. The beggar actually had 2 tin cans. One was for the money he collected, and the other was for his small amount of rice. Every day the beggar, dressed in ragged clothes, sat there with his 2 tin cans. Finally, the day came, and the prince arrived in the village. When the beggar saw the prince passing by, he quickly reached out his hand and shouted, "Please give alms to a poor man." "Give me your can of rice," the prince said. The beggar couldn't believe his ears. Why would the richest man in the country ask for a beggar's rice can? He thought about refusing, but then decided to pour out some of the rice and handed the prince half a can. The prince poured the rice into his own bag, then reached into his pocket and took out a handful of gold, putting it into the half-empty can, matching the amount of rice he had taken. He handed the can back to the beggar and never returned. For the rest of his life, the beggar kept wondering, what would have happened if he had given the prince the whole can of rice? 20. The Monster in the Deep Cave. Once upon a time, there was a knight who loved adventures. He arrived at a village with a terrible monster living in a deep cave. The brave knight promised he would kill the monster. Naturally, everyone tried to stop him, telling stories of many brave knights who had entered the cave but never returned. With a dagger in hand, the knight clung to a rope and slowly descended into the cave. Looking around, he saw the skeletons of those who came before him, all holding their weapons, but it was unclear why they had died. Suddenly, there was a noise behind him. When the knight turned around, he was surprised. The monster was no bigger than a rabbit. It was hissing and growling to appear fierce. The knight lunged at it with his dagger, but the monster quickly jumped into a nearby crevice. Of course, the knight followed, and to his amazement, inside the crevice lay heaps of gold and diamonds scattered all over the ground. The monster had disappeared. It was a huge treasure, easy to take. Even a small part of it could make a person incredibly wealthy for life. The knight forgot about the monster. However, the knight faced another problem: how to carry the gold and diamonds out of the cave without a bag. And who would believe he had reached the bottom of the cave without any proof? Then the smart knight had an idea. He would carry a diamond in his mouth and climb out. He could return for the rest later. He quickly chose the biggest diamond. It filled his mouth completely. Gripping the rope, he slowly climbed up. The higher he climbed, the more tired he became, especially with a large diamond in his mouth. Eventually, exhausted, he opened his mouth to breathe. As he inhaled, the diamond slipped into his throat and got stuck. Unable to breathe, the brave knight let go of the rope, fell to the bottom of the cave, and died among the other skeletons. The monster in the cave turned out to be nothing scary. The real monster was within the knight himself, the greed that clouded his judgment. Do you believe this could be true? 21. The Lies of the Heart. There was an old blind art collector living in a poor, small town in post-war Germany. He valued the paintings in his collection more than his own life and would view them every day through his memories and imagination. The poor old man was unaware that the war had brought such hardship that his wife and children had been forced to sell his beloved paintings bit by bit to help the family survive through hunger and cold. Imagine his despair if he were to find out this terrible truth, especially if it were revealed by an art dealer suddenly showing up to buy some of his collection. But the art dealer, deeply moved by the desperate pleas of the old man's family, agreed to play along in a charade. This kind-hearted man did everything he could to hide the truth, and he succeeded. The old art lover saw his unexpected visitor off, with his faith in his collection intact and joy still shining in his blind eyes. As for the art dealer, the reluctant actor, he left not with a rare, old painting, but with a lesson about the compassion and love of those in hardship. You might say, sometimes it's not the truth but the lies that help us live better. However, I believe that behind those untruths it is the genuine kindness and deep empathy from the heart that create miracles. 22. Firefly and Dewdrop. That night there was no moon, but the sky was full of bright stars. The firefly flew from the bamboo grove to the rice field. Its little light blinked in the night, looking beautiful like a twinkling evening star. The firefly swooped down to the edge of the field to catch some brown plant hoppers that were harming the rice. After a snack, it flew up to a high mound and perched on a blade of grass, enjoying the cool autumn breeze while making its light shine brighter. Suddenly, the firefly noticed its friend, Dewdrop, swaying on a leaf nearby. The firefly thought, "Wow, Dewdrop is so pretty." Then the firefly began to fly around Dewdrop. Surprisingly, the closer it got, the more beautiful Dewdrop seemed. The firefly said, "Hello, Dewdrop, you sparkle and shine like a gem." Dewdrop gently replied, "Dear firefly, I look bright and beautiful because I reflect the light of the stars in the sky, and sometimes I'm dimmer than your own light. I think you're the most beautiful and bright because you shine from within. You should be proud." The firefly said, "Dewdrop, you are very modest, but thank you for your kind words. Well, goodbye. I need to catch more brown plant hoppers to protect the rice." The firefly flew away, and Dewdrop called after with encouragement, "I wish you the best in your mission to keep the fields healthy and thriving." 23. The Last Performance. There was an old actor who had retired and lived alone. One summer he went to stay in a quiet village in the mountains with his brother's family. His brother was an elementary school teacher. Every afternoon the old actor would go to a quiet grassy spot in the valley. There, he would see a boy waiting eagerly for the train to pass through the valley before heading into the rocky hills to the next station. The boy waited anxiously. The train, covered in dust with crowded passenger cars, rumbled through the valley like another world. The boy would jump up, excitedly waving, hoping a passenger would wave back. But the tired passengers, worn out from a long day of travel, never noticed him. Day after day, the old actor saw the boy waving with no response. Seeing the boy's disappointed face broke the old actor's heart. He thought, "There's nothing sadder than seeing a child disappointed. We must not let children lose faith in life and people." The next day, the old actor's brother saw him taking out his makeup case. The actor put on a fake mustache, glasses, and borrowed an old vest, completing his look with a cane. He hitched a ride to the station and took the train to the next stop. Sitting by the window, he thought, "This is my last performance." Just like many times before, playing a small, unimportant role, just another passenger among many. As the train passed through the valley where the boy was waving, the old actor leaned out, smiled, and waved back. He saw the boy overjoyed, jumping up and down, waving both hands enthusiastically. As the train moved on, the old actor's eyes filled with tears, more moved than by any grand performance at the theater. This was his last role, a small, silent, insignificant role, but it made the boy happy and kept his faith in life intact.
If you like this video, please comment 1. And if you don't, comment 2. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time.
24. Inner beauty. Once upon a time, there was a very beautiful princess. She was always proud of her looks and loved being praised. So, she asked her father, the king, to hold a contest to find the most beautiful woman in the kingdom, and he agreed. Short letters describing the beauty of the women would be sent to the king. If a letter caught the king's attention, the beautiful woman mentioned would get to meet him. Hundreds of thousands of letters were sent, each one full of flowery praise, hoping to win the prize. The princess was happily basking in all the compliments until she read one letter that made her furious. "The most beautiful woman to me is my mother. She has eyes that shine with love, lips that always smile warmly, and rough hands that are like a fairy's wand, always giving me what I need. Unlike the princess, who only cares for her looks, my mother works all day to make our family and those around us happy. She is beautiful when she smiles, beautiful when she sings me to sleep, but most beautiful when she sweats in the hot sun. My mother is a beautiful woman whom I cannot compare to anyone else in this world." The princess immediately called for the author of the letter and asked the king to punish this insolent person. To her surprise, it was a young boy, and even more surprising, the king was moved to tears when he read the letter. He called for the boy's mother and ordered the boy to be executed as a warning. "Your mother is dirty and covered in mud. How can you say she is the most beautiful woman?" the king shouted. The boy didn't get a chance to speak before his mother begged to die in his place. Outside, the townspeople gathered, pleading to die for the mother because she was the kindest and most beautiful person they had ever met. The king couldn't hold back his tears at the sight of the mother's selfless love and said, "You truly are the most beautiful woman. I was only testing you." The mother and son hugged each other joyfully, and the king advised the princess, "You see, outward beauty cannot compare to the beauty of the heart and love. Develop a kind heart, and you will be forever beautiful in the eyes of everyone, like this mother." 25. Faith. In a village there was a long drought. The fields were dry, plants were withered, and life became very hard. Months passed and people were losing patience. Many families left the village while others waited in despair. Finally, the village chief decided to hold a collective prayer on the highest hill. He convinced everyone to come and bring something that represented their faith. On Saturday afternoon, the villagers gathered on the hill, looking tired but carrying their symbols of faith. Some brought a lucky horseshoe, others brought a family heirloom hat. Though no one truly believed these items would change anything, they brought their precious things anyway. Everyone started to pray and held up their items. As if by magic, dark clouds appeared, and it began to rain, the first rain in months. Everyone was overjoyed, and a debate broke out about which item brought the luck. Each person claimed their item was the most sacred. Suddenly, a little girl's voice rang out. "I knew it would rain, Mom. See, I brought my umbrella and now we can go home without getting wet." The girl held up her umbrella and walked home with her mother, filled with joy. The others watched and realized that the little girl had the most faith of all. Her faith had brought the rain. 26. A tunnel through the earth. Two brothers once decided to dig a deep hole in their backyard. As they were digging, some other kids came by to watch and asked what they were doing. One of the brothers excitedly replied that they wanted to dig a tunnel through the earth. The kids watching burst out laughing and made fun of the brothers. But the two boys kept digging. After a while, One of them climbed out of the hole, holding an old jar full of spiders, bugs, and creepy crawlies in one hand, and a bag of shiny, beautiful rocks reflecting the sunlight in the other. He proudly showed the kids the pretty stones and said, "Even if we don't dig a tunnel through the earth, at least we found these beautiful rocks and conquered these creepy bugs." Not every goal is fully achieved. Not every task ends successfully. Not every effort is rewarded. Not every relationship lasts. Not every love is forever. Not every dream comes true. But if you're always afraid and never start, you'll never get the chance to step on the path to success. You'll never. 27. A way to behave. Mr. Thomas is a wealthy farmer. He and his wife are very friendly to everyone, so everyone loves them. One day, he saw his wife, Mrs. Thomas, send a servant to the end of the village to borrow a vegetable peeler from Mrs. John, one of their tenants. After the servant left, he asked his wife, "Don't you think our house already has a vegetable peeler, or that we can easily buy one? Why bother borrowing one and causing trouble?" Mrs. Thomas calmly replied, "Here, see, our peeler is still in good condition. I know everyone around here likes us because we provide them with more material things than other landlords. But I don't want that. I want to be loved for something more, for the sense of community. That can only happen when there is no gap between us as landlords and them as tenants, between the rich and the poor. So borrowing the vegetable peeler is just a way for us to get closer to everyone." 28. 8 lies. My mother told me. A mother's heart is always great, the greatest in the world, unmatched by anything else. Once, while browsing foreign websites, I stumbled upon a small piece that felt like a child's reverent confession to their mother. The lies mothers tell are filled with love and sacrifice for their children. When I was little, our family was very poor, and we didn't have enough food. My mother would often give me some of her rice, saying, "Eat this for me, I'm not hungry." When I was growing, my mother would travel to the countryside to buy fresh fish for me. The fish was delicious and fresh, but my mother would only pick at the bits of meat stuck to the bones. Seeing this, I would give her some of my fish, but she would always put it back in my bowl, saying, "Eat it. I don't like fish." In middle school, to pay for my tuition, my mother took on extra sewing work. One winter night, I woke up to find her still working by the oil lamp. I told her to go to sleep since she had work the next morning, but she just smiled and said, "Go back to sleep. I'm not tired." When I was taking the high school entrance exam, my mother took time off work to stand at the school gate and encourage me. It was a hot summer day, and she stood there for hours. After the exam, she quickly bought me a cold drink. Seeing her dry lips and sweaty forehead, I offered her the drink, but she smiled gently and said, "Drink it. I'm not thirsty." After my father passed away, my mother took on both parental roles, relying on her sewing job to support us. A nearby watch repairman named Mr. Lai would often help us, sometimes giving us food or money. Neighbors would advise my mother to remarry, but she remained devoted to my father, saying, "I don't love anyone else." When we graduated from college and started working, my mother couldn't work anymore. She moved to a small stall at a farmer's market to earn a living. We sent her money regularly, but she always returned it, saying, "I have enough money." I went abroad to study for 2 years and earned a PhD from a prestigious American university. After graduation, I stayed in the U.S. with a good job and benefits. I wanted to bring my mother to live with me, but she refused, saying, "I don't like it there." In her final days, my mother fell seriously ill and was hospitalized. I rushed back from abroad to see her. After surgery, she grew very weak. Knowing she wouldn't survive, she waited for death, while I was heartbroken and cried. She comforted me, saying, "Don't cry, I feel at peace." 29. The story of the shadow. Once upon a time, there was a curious young goat who often wondered about strange things. For example, why am I called a young goat? Where did I come from? What did things look like before I was born? Even the goat's mother sometimes couldn't answer these questions. One evening, as the sun was setting behind the mountains, the young goat went to find its mother. Suddenly, the young goat noticed something strange. A long, thin something was always following it. Wherever the goat went, it followed. If the goat tilted its head, it did the same. The young goat felt tired and annoyed, wondering how to get rid of it. The mother goat came up and said, "The sun is setting. Let's go home." The young goat, upset, replied, "No, I don't want to go home." Surprised, the mother goat asked, "Aren't you afraid of the wolf?" "I'm not afraid of the wolf. I'm afraid of this thing." The young goat pointed to the strange follower. The mother goat laughed and said, "That's your shadow. Let's go home before it gets dark." With that, the mother goat led the young goat home. At that moment, a wolf hiding behind a big rock was planning to catch the young goat. It had heard everything the young goat said to its mother. The wolf thought, "Lucky I didn't jump out. Otherwise, I would have faced that shadow. But what does a shadow look like anyway? I've never seen one." The wolf decided to find out what a shadow was before eating the young goat. The next day, at sunset, the wolf saw the young goat on its way to find its mother. "Stop right there, young goat," the wolf yelled, blocking the path with its long red tongue sticking out. The young goat was terrified, wondering what the wolf wanted. "Don't be afraid. I won't catch you today. I just want to see the shadow, and then I'll let you go," the wolf said. The young goat's heart was pounding, but it tried to stay calm. "You want to see the shadow? It's more fierce, bigger than you, and it can eat you. Don't blame me then." Hearing this, the wolf felt brave. "I've never met a worthy opponent in the forest. Stop wasting words. Show me where the shadow is." The young goat whispered, "Turn around. The shadow is right behind you." The wolf turned and saw a long, dark shape on the ground. It lunged and bit, but the shadow moved ahead. It jumped, and the shadow jumped too. The wolf kept chasing its own shadow until it fell off a cliff and died. As for the young goat, it sang happily and went to find its mother to go home together. 30. The Buddha's teaching on compassion. In relationships, it's common to face arguments and see each other as adversaries. We often fail to understand each other deeply. Building on the Buddha's teachings, Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh offers this advice. Among the methods taught by the Buddha, there is one called compassionate listening and using kind words. Compassionate listening can help restore empathy and understanding. Many people try to escape from themselves because they don't know how to listen to their own suffering. When we use compassion to connect with each other, we don't see anger in our loved ones. Instead, we see their suffering. This helps us understand their harsh words and anger. Once we understand, we can speak kindly and compassionately. "I know you have suffered a lot. For many years, I have done things that hurt you because I didn't understand your pain or mine. Please help me. Tell me about your difficulties. I don't want to repeat the mistakes of the past and make you suffer more." If we can speak to our loved ones with this kind of kindness and understanding, they will open their hearts. When we listen with compassion, both our loved ones and we ourselves will suffer less. When we are in pain, we tend to think others are to blame. We want to punish them for our suffering. But if we practice mindful breathing and look deeply into their pain, we will see that they too are victims of their own suffering. They need help, not punishment. The Buddha's teachings on love and compassion. 31. Where is the Buddha? A long time ago, a young man read about the Buddha in some scriptures and became very excited. He decided to go on a journey to find the Buddha. He packed his things and set off. After traveling through countless mountains, rivers, cities, and dangerous places, he still couldn't find the Buddha described in the scriptures. The Buddha has a golden body, is 6 feet tall, has 32 good features, and 80 beautiful marks, and emits a bright halo. One day, on a hillside, the young man met an old man with white hair and beard, who had a noble appearance. The young man was overjoyed and asked eagerly, "Sir, do you know where the Buddha is? Please tell me." The old man smiled and said, "Oh, the Buddha is everywhere. Haven't you met him on your journey?" "Sir, I have met many people, but they were all ordinary folks. I haven't seen anyone with the good features described in the scriptures." The old man laughed. "You silly boy, don't you know that the body with 32 good features and 80 beautiful marks was cremated by the Indians, and the ashes were divided and worshipped in stupa towers? So, the Buddha is dead. The Buddha is now in all places. He appears as both good and bad people, just like everyone else. Do you still want to meet him?" "Yes, no matter what form he takes, if it's truly him, I still long to meet him." "All right, let me give you a hint. Go back home. On your way, if you meet someone wearing the left sandal on the right foot and the right sandal on the left foot, that person is a manifestation of the Buddha. Serve and worship that Buddha as the scriptures teach." The young man hurried back. Throughout his journey, he didn't meet anyone fitting the old man's description. Discouraged, he went home. It was late at night, and his mother was still up waiting for him. Hearing the knock, she was so happy that she grabbed her sandals in a rush and hurried to open the door, leaning on her cane. The young man saw his mother, frail and with tears streaming down her wrinkled cheeks, wearing the left sandal on her right foot and the right sandal on her left foot. He embraced her tightly and cried, "Oh, my beloved Buddha." 32. Temptation is like a cloud that blocks your reasoning. Even if you spend your whole life gathering all the money in the world, it still can't buy your life back. A fox found a chicken coop, but it was too fat to squeeze through the fence to get to the chickens, so it went hungry for 3 days until it could fit through. After eating its fill, its belly swelled up and it couldn't get out. It had to go hungry for another 3 days to escape. In the end, it lamented that it had gained nothing but temporary satisfaction. Isn't life the same? We come into this world with nothing and leave with nothing. No one can take their hard-earned wealth and fame with them. We trade our youth for money, but money can't buy back our youth. We trade our lives for money, but money can't buy back our lives. We trade happiness for money, but money can't buy back happiness. We trade time for money, but money can't buy back time. Even if you spend your whole life gathering all the money in the world, it still can't buy your life back. So, when it's time to work, work hard. When it's time to rest, rest well. Enjoy your work. Enjoy your life. Cherish everything you have. Love those you love, and live each day happily. Living one happy day is still a day lived. Living one unhappy day is still a day lived. So why not cherish everything and live each day happily? 33. Who deserves more praise? Once upon a time, there were 2 rabbit brothers living with their mother. Their father worked far away, so both brothers wanted to show they were the best and loved their mother the most. The older brother, being more mature, always let his younger brother have his way. However, the younger brother always wanted more praise from their mother. One day, their mother said to them, "Today, you have no school. Older brother, go to the forest and pick 10 shiitake mushrooms for me. Younger brother, go to the meadow and pick 10 beautiful flowers. The road is a bit far, so be careful and don't get distracted." Both brothers eagerly obeyed and set off. The younger brother excitedly ran straight to the meadow. When he got there, instead of picking the first flowers he saw, he walked around to find the prettiest, most colorful ones. After gathering the flowers, he rushed home to show his mother. "Mom, look! I brought you beautiful flowers. Praise me." His mother admired the bouquet. "The flowers are so beautiful. The flowers are so beautiful." The younger brother beamed. "Praise me, Mom. I didn't get distracted at all on the way home." His mother looked at him lovingly. "You are such a good boy. Did you see anyone or anything on your way?" The younger brother quickly replied, "Yes, I saw the baby squirrel from the golden squirrel's family crying under a guava tree. It was naughty, right, Mom? Did you ask why it was crying?" "No, Mom. I was afraid you were waiting for me at home." His mother didn't say anything more. After a while, the older brother came home with a basket full of shiitake and black mushrooms. He greeted his mother and took some chestnuts out of his pocket to give to his younger brother. "You like chestnuts, so I brought these for you." His mother asked, "Why did you pick so many mushrooms?" The older brother smiled. "Since I was already there, I picked more to save for later." His mother asked again, "Why did it take you so long?" The older brother replied, "Mom, on my way back, I helped Mrs. Hen." "What happened to Mrs. Hen?" "She lost one of her chicks while leading them to eat. I had to help her find it, so I came back late." After hearing this, their mother smiled, nodded, and called both brothers close. "My dear children, you are both good because you listen to me. The younger brother always thinks of me, which is good. But the older brother not only thinks of me, he also thinks of others, picks extra mushrooms for me, brings gifts for his brother, and helps Mrs. Hen when she was in trouble. Remember, doing good deeds is not just for praise, but to help others." The younger brother understood and shyly said, "Yes, Mom." If you find these stories inspiring and they motivate you to take action, please comment 9. If not, comment 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time. 34. Don't be afraid to fail when you're young. People in their 20s are different from those in their 50s because they have more time to fix their mistakes. So don't be afraid to fail. 1. Believe in yourself. To trust others, you first need to believe in yourself. No one is perfect, so don't dwell too much on your weaknesses. When you feel like giving up, think about your strengths and keep believing that you can achieve your goals if you truly want to. 2. Dare to fail. People in their 20s have more time to correct their mistakes compared to those in their 50s. So don't be afraid to fail, even though no one wants to fail. Experiencing failure makes success feel even sweeter. While no one encourages failure, always be ready to take a step back when needed. Overcoming failure will make you grow stronger. 3. Be forgiving. Everyone makes mistakes, including you. Therefore, forgive others for their mistakes, so that when you make mistakes, you will also receive forgiveness. 4. Don't lose hope. Remember, being young means you still have the chance to fix your mistakes. Start over and keep trying. Even if you're not successful right now, don't lose faith in tomorrow. Success is waiting ahead as long as you don't lose hope. 5. Love life. Youth is the most beautiful time of your life, and once it's gone, it never comes back. Appreciate life through the simplest things, cherish what you have, and keep looking forward to the future. Don't let the worries and stresses of life make you forget that life is beautiful. Loving life keeps you optimistic, happy, and full of energy to do everything. 6. Make your own decisions. Many people wish they could turn back time to do what they wanted, but time waits for no one. So at least once in your life, make your own decisions and take responsibility for them. Your decisions may be right or wrong, but at least you won't regret living someone else's life. 7. Have a purpose. Youth is a valuable time to discover yourself, but you might often feel lost without a purpose. To avoid negative feelings, set goals for yourself in your work and life. Achieving these goals will show you how far you've come and how much you've grown. Even if you don't achieve them, you'll know where you are and where you need to go. 35. A new perspective on life. When I started cycling a few years ago, I never thought my rides would become more than just a few laps around the neighborhood. But as I got stronger, my friends encouraged me to take on bigger challenges and try some long-distance rides. My first big test was a 150-mile ride, over 200 kilometers, an annual bike race to raise money for multiple sclerosis research. When I signed up, the idea sounded fantastic, supporting a charity while biking long distances, and I was excited to train. But as the race day approached, my confidence waned. I still wanted to raise money for charity, but I no longer wanted to ride such a long distance over 2 days. The race started on a Sunday morning in the peaceful countryside of Georgia, and for the first few hours I felt great. This was exactly what I had imagined, and my spirits were high. But by the end of the day, I was exhausted and cranky. If anyone believes that the body is connected to the mind, I am a perfect example. Every complaint my brain made seemed to go straight to my legs. I can't take it anymore, and my legs would cramp up. Everyone else is better than me. And I'd start gasping for breath. I wanted to quit. As I reached the top of a hill, the beautiful sunset on the distant horizon kept me going for a few more minutes. I noticed a rider far ahead, pedaling slowly in the red glow of the evening. Something about this person seemed different, but I couldn't figure out what it was. So I tried to catch up. She was riding slowly but steadily with a gentle and determined smile, and then I realized she had only one leg. My focus shifted immediately. All day I had been doubting my own body, but now I understood. It wasn't my body but my willpower that would get me to the finish line. The next day, it rained. I didn't see the one-legged cyclist again, but I kept riding without complaining because I knew she was somewhere on the course with me. And by the end of the day, still feeling strong, I completed my 150 miles. 36. You don't always have to be the winner. People who are overly competitive and always want to win often feel shortchanged and are never fully happy, no matter the outcome. If they fail, they become deeply disappointed. If they win, they see it as nothing special and not worth celebrating. These individuals often miss an important point. True joy comes from surpassing one's own past self, not from beating others. In 1972, Richard Nixon ran for re-election as the Republican candidate for U.S. president. Nixon directed his campaign team to use any means necessary to secure as many votes as possible. The most infamous act was the illegal break-ins at the Watergate building, the Democratic Party headquarters, to install listening devices. Additionally, his campaign staff engaged in various underhanded tactics, which Nixon himself referred to as dirty tricks. For example, they ordered hundreds of pizzas to be delivered to an opposing candidate's office. They spread false rumors about the cancellation of an opponent's meeting. They even called venues booked by the opposition to cancel their reservations. Why did Nixon do this? He was obsessed with winning and terrified of losing, resorting to unethical measures to secure victory. Ironically, Nixon could have won without resorting to such tactics, despite the public's disapproval of the Vietnam War. His fear of failure led him to extreme measures, ultimately costing him the very victory he sought. He became known as one of the most scandal-ridden politicians in American election history. The Watergate scandal, forever linked to Nixon, stands as one of the biggest disgraces in the history of the U.S. presidency. Excessive competitiveness and ego can make people perpetually dissatisfied with their lives because, for them, no victory is ever enough, and failure is a devastating abyss. Overly competitive individuals often undervalue their successes compared to those who bravely face challenges and accept their mistakes or failures. 37. A few lines. Many years ago, an older executive at an oil company made a bad decision that cost the company over $2 million. John D. Rockefeller was the head of the company at that time. On the terrible day when this news spread, most of the employees and other executives were worried and tried to avoid Rockefeller. No one wanted to get involved, except for one person, the executive who made the bad decision, Edward T. Bedford. Rockefeller asked to meet Bedford that same day, and Bedford arrived on time. He was ready to hear a harsh lecture from Rockefeller. When Bedford entered Rockefeller's office, the oil tycoon was sitting at his desk, busy writing with a pencil on a sheet of paper. Bedford stood silently, not wanting to interrupt. After a few minutes, Rockefeller looked up. "Oh, it's you, Bedford?" Rockefeller said calmly. "I suppose you've heard about the losses our company has suffered?" Bedford replied that he had. "I've been thinking a lot about this," Rockefeller said. "Before I talked to you, I wrote down a few things." Later, Bedford recounted his conversation with Rockefeller like this. "The first thing I saw on the paper was the heading Bedford's Strengths. Then followed a list of my good qualities and a brief description of how I had helped the company make 3 good decisions, earning far more than the current loss. I never forgot that lesson. In the years that followed, whenever I felt like getting angry with someone, I made myself sit down and write a list of that person's strengths as long as I could. By the time I finished, I usually felt less angry. I don't know how many mistakes I avoided because of this habit, blindly lashing out at others. I am grateful to my boss for this habit, and now I share it with all of you." 38. The Book and the Coal Basket. There's a story about an old man living with his grandson on a remote farm in the mountains of eastern Kentucky. Every morning, the old man would get up early to read books. Some of these books were so worn out from being read many times, yet he always read them with great passion and never missed a morning. The grandson wanted to be like his grandpa, so he tried to read every day too. One day, he asked his grandpa, "Grandpa, I try to read books like you, but I don't understand anything. Or sometimes I understand a bit, but then I forget everything as soon as I close the book. So what's the point of reading if I can't remember anything?" At that moment, the old man was putting coal into the stove. He looked at his grandson and said, "Take this coal basket to the river and bring back a basket of water for me." The boy did as he was told, but all the water leaked out of the basket before he got back home. Seeing the empty basket, the old man laughed and said, "Well, you need to move faster next time." He asked the boy to go back to the river for another basket of water. This time, the boy ran faster, but again, the basket was empty by the time he returned home. Out of breath, the boy told his grandpa that it was impossible to carry water in a basket, and he went to get a bucket instead. But the old man stopped him. "I don't want a bucket of water. I want a basket of water. You can do it if you just try harder." The boy knew it was impossible, but he wanted to show his grandpa that no matter how fast he ran, the water would always leak out. So he went to the river again, ran as fast as he could, but once more, the basket was empty when he got back. "See, Grandpa," the boy said, out of breath, "it's useless." "You think it's useless?" the old man said. "Look at the basket." The boy looked at the basket, and for the first time he realized that it looked different. It wasn't the same dirty black coal basket anymore. It was clean. My dear grandson, that's what happens when you read books. You might not understand or remember everything, but as you read, the books will change you from the inside, just like the water cleaned the coal basket. 39. Mother Cow Fainted. The young girl, about 14 or 15 years old, was excitedly sharing a story with her mother, who was sitting next to her older sister in the maternity hospital. "Mom, You won't believe it. The mother cow fainted. I was visiting a friend whose wife had just given birth to a baby girl and was sitting on the bed next to them when this shocking information caught my attention. The mother didn't say anything, but the older sister seemed skeptical and softly said, "Are you crazy? How can a cow faint?" "Really, I saw it myself," the young girl insisted, getting even more animated in the face of her sister's doubt. "You know Uncle Hung bought a calf from Mr. Bang for Thoa's wedding, but no matter how they pulled, the calf wouldn't budge. Uncle Hung had to borrow the mother cow to lead the way so the calf would follow. When they got to Uncle Hung's house, they tied the calf to a jackfruit tree. But then, the mother cow wouldn't leave no matter how they tried to drag her away. She spread her legs wide so no one could move her. Then they started to slaughter the calf right in front of the mother cow. The mother cow mooed loudly a few times. She stared at her calf being butchered. Then suddenly she collapsed and fell to the ground. She fainted, her legs flailing in the air. They had to burn straw and fan the smoke for a long time before she finally woke up. Then she slowly walked away alone to the field. The young girl suddenly stopped talking. Everyone in the room fell silent. The older sister looked stunned. As for me, I felt a lump in my throat, picturing the mother cow's agony as she watched her calf struggle. I walked over and patted the girl's head. She looked up at me with clear eyes and said, "I feel sorry for the calf and the mother cow." I nodded and told her, I believe the mother cow really did faint.
If you like this video, please comment 1. And if you don't, comment 2. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time.
40. Just call her mom. A baby was about to be born. It asked God, "They say you are sending me to earth tomorrow, but how will I live there being so small and helpless?" God answered, "Among all the angels I have chosen one for you. Your angel will be waiting and will take care of you." The baby asked further, "But what will I do besides singing and being happy?" God replied, "Your angel will sing to you and smile at you every day. You will feel the love from your angel and you will be very happy." The baby asked again, "But how will I understand people when they talk to me in a language I don't know?" God said, "Your angel will speak to you with the kindest and most beautiful words you've ever heard, and with patience and care, your angel will teach you how to speak." I have heard that the earth is full of bad people. Who will protect me? Your angel will protect you, even if it means risking their own life. But I will be sad because I will not see you anymore. Your angel will always talk to you about me and teach you the way back to me, even though I am always with you. At that moment, there was peace in heaven, but voices from earth could still be heard. The baby hurriedly asked, "God, if I have to leave now, please tell me my angel's name." "The name is not important. You will just call her Mom." 41. The essence of success. Have you ever wondered what success is that so many people spend their entire lives chasing after it? Is it the perfect result in a job, precision down to every detail? Or is it another way of saying being accomplished, meaning living a wealthy life and earning everyone's respect? Take a moment to reflect. Life will show you that some achieve success in surprisingly simple ways. Success is when a father and son have the courage to step into the kitchen and cook their mother's favorite dishes for International Women's Day. The soup might be a bit salty. The fish sauce that should be a deep red might turn out blackened. But seeing the meal, the mother still smiles. Because even though they couldn't succeed in the battlefield of the kitchen, they succeeded in giving her a rose of love. A gift more meaningful than any valuable present, that happiness shines in her eyes. Success is also the image of a boy with a leg disability who can never walk normally. He dreamed of becoming a soccer player since he was little. After many efforts, he became a substitute player on a small team and never officially got on the field. But that isn't failure. On the contrary, success bloomed when that boy, with all his determination and will, overcame his circumstances to pursue his childhood dream. How many can achieve such success? After each college entrance exam season, many students feel sad when they don't pass. Scoring 27 points is impressive, but what's the use if the top choice required 27.5? This isn't failure, it's just success being delayed. Life still welcomes them with second and third choices. The important thing is that they tried their best to prove themselves. That's the true meaning of exams and the essence of success. When I was young, I read a touching story about a poor boy and his essay about his mother, the woman who protected him. He described his mother with graying hair and rough, wrinkled but gentle and warm hands. He concluded that his grandmother was the motherly figure who supported him throughout his life. The essay was off-topic and had to be rewritten at home, but it was a successful piece because it was filled with the love of an orphan boy for his grandmother. Is there any success, any emotion more sacred than that? Years ago, the press honored a poor student who passed the college entrance exam as the top scorer. To him, it was a great success. But there was another silent but immense success: the victory of a father who had driven a pedicab for nearly 20 years to support his son's education. His face, marked by hardship, was filled with faith and hope. The day his son passed the exam was also the graduation day of a father's education. I know a woman who graduated with honors nearly 20 years ago. With her talent, she could have achieved great success in her career and fame. But she chose to sacrifice those opportunities to become a devoted wife and a gentle mother to 2 little girls. Even now, as a middle-aged woman, she tells me, "Taking good care of your father and our 2 daughters is a great success for me." Every time I hear that, I shed tears. Family is happiness, the beautiful fruit of her life, and we must thank her for that. People always yearn for success, but blindly chasing it is meaningless. Do you want to be rich, to become a billionaire like Bill Gates? Then carefully fold a dollar bill and give it to an elderly beggar on the street. With that beautiful act, you show everyone that you're not only rich in material wealth but also in spirit. At that moment, you have truly succeeded. Maybe you dream of success coming to you like it did to Abramovich, the owner of a team full of stars. Success is not far away. Just spend time caring for your family's team. There, you receive boundless love, something Abramovich doesn't get from his players. Success comes to people in such simple and sweet ways. You were born, which is a great success for your parents. Your responsibility is to maintain the beauty and completeness of that success. Never think that life is a series of failures, because, as a British professor once said, there is no failure in life, only the way we perceive things. For me, success is when someone reads this little piece. It may not get high marks, but being able to share my thoughts on these pages is a success for me. 42. Dreams lead to joy. I'm writing this to inspire young people who are full of life and ambition, striving to become someone in the future to find success, happiness, or simply a lot of joy. I'm just an ordinary guy who pastes outdoor advertisements, not a writer. So my writing might be a bit rough and uninspiring, but bear with me. Dreams are a way to visualize the beautiful things you want or to logically picture what you think about in reality, but dreams are never reality. Aspirations, on the other hand, are desires, goals, and positive wishes. Having dreams means having a goal, a vision to strive for and work towards every day. Imagine you're in a primitive boat with no motor, just your own strength to row across the vast ocean. Life is like being on that boat. You're already out at sea. You need to find land to settle and stop living precariously on the boat. You row and row, but you don't know where you're heading. You row aimlessly or with the hope of finding land. That's what it's like to set sail without a destination. In this scenario, you lack the motivation to try hard and don't feel the need to make an effort. You just row and row without knowing when you'll reach your goal. You can't manage your health or food supplies on the boat. All you do is row and wait for luck. That's why you need to have dreams and aspirations. Dreams give you a clear destination, motivation, faith, and positive direction. Dreams tell you never to stop, never to be sad or disappointed. Dreams tell you that even if you fall, you must get up because otherwise you're a failure. You have to get up because your goal is right ahead. So, how do you build a dream? First, take some quiet time for yourself. It could be a day without your phone or a night where you don't sleep but just think. Think about what you truly enjoy, what makes you happy, and what you can do endlessly without getting bored. After figuring out what you like, seriously look at your abilities, talents, knowledge, and skills. Match what you like with what you have to find your answer. Then, start building your dream. For the first 5 years, ask yourself, who do you want to become? What kind of person do you want to be? To reach that goal, who do you need to become in the first year? And what do you need to achieve? Plan for the subsequent years as well. For example, when I started working in advertising 10 years ago, I set a goal to work at the largest company in the field within 5 years. I took gradual steps, and after 2 years, I achieved my goal, thanks to luck as well. But reaching my goal too soon without having a longer dream left me feeling unstable, and I had to start my own brand. Remember, timing, location, and luck play a huge role, accounting for 90%. 43. The story of the duck. During summer, Andrew's mom sent him to the countryside to stay with his grandmother. Andrew was excited when his Uncle Billy gave him a slingshot. Following his uncle's advice, he practiced shooting in the woods behind the house. Andrew wandered through the woods all morning but didn't hit anything. Disappointed, he walked back home for lunch. As he entered the yard, he saw his grandmother's ducks chasing each other around. Andrew picked up a stone and shot it randomly. Unfortunately, the stone hit a duck on the head, and it fell over, twitching before it lay still. Panic-stricken, Andrew looked around. No one was there. He quickly picked up the duck and hid it in the woodpile. Relieved, he sat down for lunch, unaware that at least one pair of eyes had witnessed the incident. After lunch, while cleaning up, Grandma told Sally, Andrew's cousin and Uncle Billy's daughter, "It's your turn to do the dishes today." "But Andrew said he'd do it for me," Sally quickly replied, giving Andrew a look that made him feel guilty. "Is that true, Andrew?" Grandma asked, not turning around. Andrew started to speak, but Sally nudged him hard and whispered, "The duck, remember?" "Yes, I said I would," Andrew grumbled. In the afternoon, Grandpa invited Andrew and Sally to go fishing, but Grandma said, "Sally, you should stay and help me make soup for dinner." But Andrew prefers staying home to cook rather than going fishing. Ask him if it's true. Andrew was about to argue, but Sally cleared her throat. Reluctantly, he said, "I'll stay and help you, Grandma." Throughout the day, Sally kept tormenting Andrew about the duck. That evening, exhausted, Andrew fell asleep on the couch. When he woke up, someone had turned off the lights and covered him with a blanket. He lay still, thinking about the day's events. He wanted to confess to Grandma about the duck, but he was scared she'd tell his mom and he wouldn't be allowed to visit next summer. And Sally was so mean. When would he ever escape her bullying? He felt desperate and wished he could just disappear. Andrew sobbed quietly. Suddenly, Grandma's gentle hand rested on his shoulder and she whispered, "Speak up, dear. Tell me what's on your mind to lighten your heart." "The duck. The duck," Andrew stammered. Grandma was silent. Taking a deep breath, Andrew blurted out, "I accidentally killed one of your ducks with my slingshot." "Oh, the duck." At first, I was puzzled by your behavior with Sally, but I understood when I saw one duck missing as I herded them into the coop. I wanted to wait for you to tell me yourself. Today's events are a lesson for you. Hiding your mistakes will never give you peace, and you will become a slave to your wrongdoing. If you find these stories inspiring and they motivate you to take action, please comment 9. If not, comment 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time. 44. 7 Thoughts of Successful People. Belief 1. Everything happens for a reason. Successful people focus on the positive aspects of their situation and recognize the positive outcomes. They always think about the positive possibilities, even when they hear negative feedback from their surroundings. They believe that every misfortune contains a seed of benefit. Many people tend to focus on the negatives rather than the positives. The first step to change is to recognize this tendency. Limiting beliefs create people with limited abilities. The key is to ignore these limits and try different approaches. Leaders see opportunities where others see challenges. If you firmly believe in positivity, you are more likely to succeed. Belief 2. There is no failure, only results. Everyone gets some kind of result. Successful people are not those who never fail. They keep trying, and if they don't get the desired result, they treat it as a learning experience. They apply what they've learned and try something else, creating new results. Sometimes we learn from our mistakes, and sometimes we learn from others' mistakes. Believing in failure poisons the mind. Negative emotions affect our psychology, thinking process, and state of mind. Fear of failure is one of the biggest obstacles for many people. Belief 3. Take responsibility for whatever happens. Successful people believe that whatever happens, good or bad, they created it. If not through specific actions, then through their thoughts. They create their life experiences through actions or thoughts and learn from all these experiences. If you don't believe you create your own world, whether it's success or failure, your life seems predetermined. Everything just happens to you. You are an object, not the subject. Why should we be here if we are just a product of random external forces? Belief 4. You don't need to understand everything to use something. You don't need to understand every detail to use something. Know how to use what you need without getting bogged down in details. Powerful people have knowledge to do many things but aren't experts in every detail of their business. Focus on the essence, find what you need, and don't worry about the rest. Always be aware of what you need to know and what you don't. Belief 5. People are the most valuable asset. Exceptional individuals who achieve outstanding results deeply respect and appreciate others. They value teamwork and unity toward common goals. In Japanese factories, workers and managers eat together in the canteen and all contribute to evaluating results. Miracles can happen when we respect people rather than trying to manipulate them. Stay alert and adjust your behavior to ensure you are heading where you want to go. Understand that one person, no matter how talented, can rarely achieve as much as a team of talented people working effectively together. Belief 6. Work is also play. Do you know anyone who has achieved great success doing things they hate? One key to success is having a good marriage between what you do and what you like. Successful people seem to have found this balance. For some, work becomes an obsession. They don't find joy in it, but they can't do anything else. If you find creative ways to complete your work, it will help you perform better. If you see work as hard and just something to bring home a paycheck, it will never progress well. Belief 7. There is no long-lasting success without commitment. No great success comes without a significant commitment. Commitment is crucial for success in any field. The key is being willing to make sacrifices. Successful people are willing to do whatever it takes. This sets them apart from the crowd. These 7 beliefs have brought wonders to many people, and I believe they can bring wonders to you if you commit to applying them. 45. Light a match. One evening at Los Angeles Stadium in the USA, a famous speaker named John Keller was invited to speak before about 100,000 people. In the middle of his speech, he suddenly stopped and boldly announced, "Now please don't be afraid. I'm going to turn off all the lights in this stadium." The lights went out, and the whole stadium was plunged into deep darkness. John Keller continued, "Now I'm going to light a match. If you see the flame of the match, please shout, 'I see it.'" He lit a match and the entire stadium echoed with, "I see it." After the lights came back on, John Keller explained, "The light from a small act of kindness like a match can shine brightly in the dark night of humanity." Once again, all the lights in the stadium were turned off. A voice called out, "Everyone here who has a match, please light it." Suddenly the whole stadium lit up. John Keller concluded, "Together we can overcome darkness, war, terrorism, evil, and hatred with our small sparks of love, forgiveness, and kindness." Peace is not just about living without war. Peace is not just about living together without gunfire. Because in human interactions, sometimes people harm each other without weapons. Sometimes people cause suffering and oppress each other without war. The best way to build peace is to increase acts of love and kindness toward others. Acts of love that come from a kind heart are like the small lights of a match. But if everyone lights these small lights, these acts of love will be powerful enough to drive away the darkness of suffering and evil. 46. A night in the hospital, midnight. A man came to the ER with severe abdominal pain. When I went to examine him, he kept saying, "I know Director A. I have business with Manager B." It seemed like he thought mentioning these connections would make me more attentive. I responded, "You can stop naming other people. Tell me about yourself, your name, your job, and your illness." He stared at me, stunned. It took him a few minutes to start describing his symptoms. In daily life, we often do the same, don't we? We boast about being someone's child or knowing certain influential people instead of talking about ourselves. A truly mature person stands on their own, taking responsibility for their life without relying on or blaming others. 12:30 a.m. A 70-year-old woman was brought in, extremely weak with pale skin and labored breathing. After I finished treating her, I asked her 2 well-dressed daughters about her condition. They replied, "She has some heart issues and an unknown lump. She's been short of breath for a month, but we didn't think it was serious." I asked, "Are you her biological daughters?" "Yes, we are." I sighed deeply when her test results showed advanced lymphoma, brain and lung metastases, diabetes, and kidney failure. How could she be saved now? You only have one mother in this world. Last week, I attended the funeral of a close patient. Her youngest son cried and confessed, "Doctor, I hadn't seen my mom for 4 months, even though we lived just a few steps away. I got a call on Saturday afternoon and she was already gone. If only I had." The older I get, the more I fear emergency duty. It's not the health risks, the professional pressure, or the exposure to infectious diseases, nor the possibility of being assaulted. It's the emotional burden of seeing into the depths of each person's soul, even when I don't want to. 1 a.m. A 23-year-old man, emaciated with white patches in his mouth, came in with diarrhea. When I explained his condition and suggested hospitalization, he refused because he had no money. "Call your parents." My parents divorced when I was little. I live with my grandma in Vin Long. I'm a drug addict and have HIV. What will you do if you don't stay in the hospital? I don't know. His body was covered in tattoos, and his hair was dyed yellow. He didn't match the way he spoke. I just thought I could come here for some emergency help. I sighed again. Most people who go astray often come from unhappy families with divorced parents or addicted to alcohol, gambling, and drugs. Do we carefully consider every step and decision in our lives? Having children is easy. Raising them is incredibly hard. 2 a.m. A drunken young man came in needing stitches for cuts on his face and back. When the nurse asked for his information, he banged the table and shouted, "Why aren't you stitching me up? Why ask stupid questions? To stitch you up, we need to fill out your records and get your consent. I won't give my details. Do you believe I'll cut you if you don't stitch me up now?" Hearing the commotion, the security guards called the police. The drunk man ran away as soon as he saw them, despite his earlier threats. Violent and easily agitated people often live in fear and weakness. Why do young men rev their engines loudly on the streets? Why do middle-aged people dress flamboyantly in public? Deep down, they crave attention and recognition because they feel insignificant. 3 a.m. A 50-year-old man was brought in with severe right-side pain, yelling, "Where are the doctors? Are you all dead? I've been here for an hour and I haven't seen anyone." "Doctor here. You just arrived and the nurse hasn't even taken your vitals yet." His family explained, "He's in the final stages of metastatic bile duct cancer, and the pain makes him scream. Hospital C sent him home, telling us to let him eat whatever he wants." The night felt longer with every sigh. Pain and suffering are real and present in everyone. Some rise above their pain and find peace, while others are drowned by it. Normally, as people approach the end of their lives, they let go and accept their fate, but not always. 4 a.m. A woman came in complaining of a headache that kept her awake. While I was writing her chart, she suddenly shouted, "Doctor, nurse, give me back my phone." "Please check again. We didn't take your phone." "What are you saying? Only you and the doctor were near me. If it's not you, it's him. Call security or the police now." She sat up, no longer looking tired and in pain. "Oh, Mom, what are you talking about? I have your phone. I went to pay the admission fee, so you didn't know." "Really? I thought they stole it." Khan was about to speak, but I stopped him and whispered, "Let it go." I remembered a story from the Bible. When asked what to do if someone slaps you, Jesus said, "Turn the other cheek." And if someone asks for your coat, give them your shirt as well. We often turn to God only when we are suffering, when we lose something, or when our desires are unmet. And when we are wronged, we hope for justice and retribution. But God remains silent. He teaches us to forgive and give more. Only those who are weak, needy, and abandoned resort to violence and begging. The Dalai Lama once said, "The rice plant with empty grain stands tall. The one laden with grains bows low." The smaller a person's ego, the greater their heart. 47. The Praying Hands. In the 15th century, in a small village near Nuremberg, there was a large family with 18 children. The father, a goldsmith, worked almost 18 hours a day at various jobs to support his children. Despite their poverty, the two oldest sons, Albrecht and Albert, had a beautiful dream. They both wanted to pursue a career in art. Unfortunately, their father could never afford to send them to the art academy in Nuremberg. After many long discussions on their crowded bed, the two brothers came up with a plan. They would flip a coin, and the loser would work in the nearby mines to support the other through the academy. After 4 years, the one who studied first would then support the other, whether through selling art or working in the mines. They flipped a coin. Albrecht won and went to Nuremberg, while Albert worked tirelessly in the mines, sending his earnings to support his brother. At the academy, Albrecht's art was groundbreaking. His engravings, woodcuts, and paintings surpassed those of his professors. By graduation, Albrecht was already earning significant money from his art. When Albrecht returned home, the Dürer family threw a grand celebration. During the feast, Albrecht raised a toast to his brother at the end of the table, thanking him for his silent sacrifices that enabled him to pursue his artistic dreams. "And now, Albert, my dear brother," Albrecht said affectionately, "it's your turn to fulfill your dream. I'll pay for your education in Nuremberg." Everyone turned to Albert, who sat at the end of the table, tears streaming down his gaunt face. He could only choke out, "No, no, no." Finally, Albert stood up, looked around at his loved ones, and covered his face with his hands, saying softly, "Oh no, brother. It's too late. I can't go to Nuremberg. Look at my hands. The years in the mines have destroyed them. Every finger has been smashed at least once, and recently my right hand has been crippled by arthritis. I can't even hold a glass to toast you, let alone hold a brush to paint delicate lines on a canvas. Brother, it's too late." Over 450 years have passed since this story. Hundreds of Albrecht Dürer's works are displayed in major museums around the world. However, one piece is more famous than the rest and often found in homes as a reproduction. It's said that one day, to honor his brother's great sacrifice, Albrecht painstakingly sketched his brother's damaged hands pressed together, with thin fingers pointing upwards. He simply called the piece "Hands," but the world immediately recognized it as a masterpiece of love and renamed it the Praying Hands. If you ever see a copy of this touching artwork, take a moment to reflect that it was created not just by an artist's hands, but by the hands of a loving brother.
If you like this video, please comment 1. And if you don't, comment 2. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time.
48. The Cat Without a Mouth. Life in Japan is very busy. In this industrial computer and rocket age, adults go to work, children go to school, and this routine repeats every day, every week. They hardly have time to pay attention to each other. Life might seem boring, but they probably don't feel that way because they are so busy with their daily tasks. There was a little girl living in a typical family. When her parents went to work, she went to school, and they rarely saw each other. She wanted to talk, but didn't know who to talk to. No one had time to listen to her. Her friends were also busy with their classes, and some were absorbed in modern 3D video games. The little girl felt lonely and withdrew into her shell, but she couldn't find peace there either because she was small and shy and often got bullied by older kids who pulled her hair, took her backpack, and sometimes even hit her. One afternoon, after being teased by older kids, she walked sadly to the nearby park, sat on a bench, and cried. After a while, she looked up and saw an old man sitting next to her. When he saw her look up, he asked, "Little girl, why are you crying instead of going home after school?" She sobbed, "I don't want to go home. It's so boring there, and there's no one to talk to." "Well, I will listen to you." And so she cried and told the old man all her frustrations and sadness. He listened quietly without judging or commenting. He just listened. When she finished, he told her not to be sad and to go home. From then on, after school, the girl would go to the park and tell the old man her stories. She changed completely, becoming more confident and cheerful. She felt there was still so much to live for. One day, a classmate hit her. Being weak and unable to fight back, she ran to the park to share her troubles. She was in such a hurry that she ran through a red light. When the news came that she had died, the old man was sitting silently in the park on the same bench where she used to sit. He burned a paper doll. It was a gift he had wanted to give her the day before, but she never came. The doll was a beautiful white cat with big ears and round, kind eyes but no mouth. The old man wanted it to stay by the girl's side, always listening to her without judging. Since then, on every Japanese student's desk, there is often a doll of a cat without a mouth. This cat is now known as Hello Kitty, a cat made to listen to everyone. I don't know if this story about Hello Kitty is true or not. I'm not an advertiser for the brand. I just know that every time I see Hello Kitty, I am reminded to really listen to others. 49. Always letting her hang up first. Back in the day, when a girl and a boy were deeply in love, they would talk on the phone endlessly. Every call would end with the girl hanging up first. She would linger, not wanting to say goodbye, while the boy would slowly absorb the warmth of her voice lingering in the air, feeling a gentle, wistful sadness. Then they broke up. The girl quickly found a new boyfriend, a handsome, flashy guy. She felt satisfied and proud. But over time, she began to sense something was missing. This unease left her with a vague feeling of loss. What was it? She wasn't sure. It was just that when their calls ended, she hadn't even finished saying goodbye before the other end clicked off. Every time, that sharp sound seemed to freeze in the air and pierce her ears. She felt like her new boyfriend was like a kite with a broken string, and her weak hands couldn't hold on to the string that was slipping away. Eventually, they had a fight. The new boyfriend, frustrated, walked away. The girl didn't cry. She felt relieved. One day she remembered her first love and felt a pang of nostalgia. That fool always waited for her to say goodbye. This feeling made her pick up the phone. His voice was still as genuine and calm as before. She couldn't find words and awkwardly said, "Goodbye." This time she didn't hang up. A hard-to-name feeling made her listen to the silence on the other end. After a while, his voice came through. "Why didn't you hang up?" Her voice cracked. "Why do you want me to hang up first?" "It's just a habit," he calmly replied. "I want you to hang up first so I can feel at ease." "But the one who hangs up last often feels like they've lost something," she said, her voice trembling. "That's why I'd rather take that loss if it makes you happy." She couldn't hold back her tears, memories of their past love soaking into her. Finally, she understood that someone who wasn't patient enough to let her finish her last words wasn't the one she was waiting for her whole life. Sometimes, love is simple. A little patience can say it all. 50. The last things. Is the cat too full, but the plate is still full of fish? I teased him when I saw the last candy in the box in my best friend's hand. The truth is, he had gobbled up my last stash of snacks. On this afternoon, filled with tough math problems, that jar of candy was my only comfort. "Don't tell me you're too full to eat another one." "It's not that simple," he winked. "Have you ever heard of the last one rule?" I knew he was just trying to justify his actions. "This last candy is special, so I'm not eating it right away. I want to keep it. You should try it. You'll see it feels important." "So, will the thousands of other candies you eat also become important?" Think seriously for a moment. I want to talk about what we consider the last times. When you buy a TV and the seller says, "This is the last one of this model," you value it more because you know you won't get another like it, even if it costs a bit more. Or the last time a friend cooks for you before moving away, knowing it might be a long time before you have a meal like that again, you cherish it more. This time, my friend seemed right. I remembered the last Sunday dinner we had as a family before Dad left on a long trip and never came back. I recalled the last argument with a close friend that we didn't make up before he transferred schools. I remembered the last time I saw a sick puppy behind the movie theater wall, planning to take it home, but it was gone the next time I looked. I also remembered the last words of a classmate known for her courage in facing leukemia. Please continue to wish good things for everyone as long as life exists on Earth. My friend was right. When we see something as the last time, we treasure it more. You'd want people to say, the last time I saw them, they were so kind, rather than, the last time I saw them, they were really grumpy. If you think this way, your day will be much better, and you will cherish it more and do more meaningful things. Remember, the last thing you do and the last words you say are what stay in people's hearts the longest. 51. The Secret of Pancake. When he was 5, my son Pancake often came home with a new injury every week. Punishments like spanking or standing in the corner didn't work at all. Finally, I proposed a deal. If Pancake didn't do anything to make his kindergarten teacher or neighbors complain for a week, I would buy him an electric toy car. For the next 7 days, my wife and I had complete peace. After school, Pancake would sit and draw. When he went out to play, his clothes would get only a little dirty. We were very surprised. Even more so, on Sunday, when I took Pancake to buy the electric car he had long wanted, he refused and insisted on choosing a tricycle with a trailer instead. One day, I secretly followed him as he rode his tricycle to the nearby playground, carrying some drawings and a boiled sweet potato. Pancake stopped, and a tiny girl with single-lidded eyes happily ran over. The two kids sat swinging their legs on a bench, looking closely at Pancake's artwork. The little girl peeled the sweet potato, giving Pancake a big piece while she ate the smaller part. Pancake ate his share eagerly, then looked longingly at his friend's mouth. The single-lidded girl handed him her piece while she enjoyed looking at the drawings. At home, I said nothing to my wife. I didn't want to trouble her with Pancake's romance. Pancake became more well-behaved. He eagerly learned to read and do math, but the sweets and fruits in the fridge disappeared quickly. I decided to have an honest talk with my son. Pancake truthfully told me about Sue. I asked, "Do you really like Sue?" He nodded. "She's in the same class. Our pillows and water cups are kept near each other. At nap time, I get Sue's pillow for her. When we have sweet soup, Sue gets my cup. She does the light work, and I do the heavy lifting." I felt a bit guilty because at home my wife did all the work while I just read the newspaper and watched TV. I continued, "Do you often take Sue's food?" Pancake tilted his head. "She has missing teeth and hates chewing. At school, I give her my bowl of soup." I laughed. "When you go to first grade, you won't be in the same class. Will you miss Sue?" Suddenly, Pancake's eyes widened with worry. "I'll marry Sue, Dad." I was stunned and joked, "If you get married, how will you get around?" "I have a tricycle. Sue can sit in the trailer." "But when you have a baby, it'll be hard," I said seriously. Pancake thought for a long time, then smiled brightly. "Sue will lay eggs and we'll keep them in the fridge. I'll work hard. When we have enough money, Sue will hatch the eggs and we'll have a baby. I'll take good care of Sue and won't let her get tired, Dad." I was silent, looking at Pancake. His innocent yet mature thoughts were just like those of a grown man, full of love and responsibility. One day, when Pancake grows up, he might marry a girl with single-lidded eyes. Whoever she is, I believe she will be happy. Because once a man loves his woman, he will strive very hard. I learned this wonderful secret from Pancake. 52. The Story of Cinderella. The literature class began. Today, the teacher was discussing the story of Cinderella. First, the teacher asked a student to recount the story. After the student finished, the teacher thanked them and started asking questions. Teacher: which characters did you like and dislike in the story? Student: we liked Cinderella and the prince. We didn't like the stepmother and her daughters. Cinderella is kind, lovely, and beautiful. The stepmother and stepsisters treated her badly. Teacher: What would happen if Cinderella didn't make it to the pumpkin carriage by midnight? Student, Cinderella would turn back into her dirty, ragged self. It would be terrible. Teacher, that's why it's important to be on time or you'll cause trouble for yourself. Also look at yourselves. You all wear nice clothes. Always dress neatly in public. Especially you girls, remember this. When you grow up and go on dates, if you dress messily, it might shock your date. The teacher pretends to faint and the class laughs. Now, if you were the stepmother, would you try to stop Cinderella from going to the ball? Be honest. Student, after a pause, if I were the stepmother, I would stop Cinderella too. Teacher, why? Student, because I love my own daughter more and want her to be the queen. Teacher, exactly. That's why we often think stepmothers are bad. They're not really bad people, they just care more about their own children. Do you understand? They can't love others' children like their own. Now, why did Cinderella still manage to go to the ball and become the most beautiful girl there? Student, because the fairy helped her. She gave Cinderella a beautiful dress, turned a pumpkin into a carriage, and transformed animals into her servants. Teacher, correct. Without the fairy's help, Cinderella couldn't have gone to the ball, right? Student, right. Teacher, if the animals hadn't helped, could Cinderella have gotten home? Student, no. Teacher, the fairy's help alone wasn't enough. So you see, we always need friends' help. Your friends don't have to be fairies, but you still need them. I hope you all have as many friends as possible. Now, if Cinderella had given up because of her stepmother, could she have become the prince's wife? Student, no. She wouldn't have met or been loved by the prince. Teacher, exactly. If Cinderella didn't want to go to the ball, even if her stepmother didn't stop her or even supported her, it wouldn't matter. So, who decided Cinderella would go to the ball? Student, Cinderella did. Teacher, yes. Even though she didn't have her birth mother's love and her stepmother didn't love her, it didn't stop her from loving herself. Because she loved herself, she went after what she wanted. If you feel unloved or have a stepmother who doesn't love you like Cinderella, what should you do? Student, love ourselves. Teacher, exactly. No one can stop you from loving yourself. If others don't love you, love yourself even more. If others don't give you opportunities, create your own. If you truly love yourself, you'll find what you want. No one could stop Cinderella from going to the ball or becoming the queen, right? Student, right. Teacher, now, one last question. Is there anything unrealistic about this story? Student, after a pause. After midnight, everything turned back to normal, but the glass slipper didn't. Teacher, wow, you're very clever. See, even a great writer, like French author Charles Perrault, who wrote Cinderella, can make mistakes. So, making mistakes isn't a big deal. I'm sure that if any of you become writers, you'll write even better stories. Do you believe that? All the students clapped and cheered. If you find these stories inspiring and they motivate you to take action, please comment 9. If not, comment 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time. 53. The Blind Wife. It seemed fate brought him to her. Despite all the warnings, a beautiful wedding took place in the church. He met her while volunteering for a medical mission in a remote area. She was like a wildflower growing in the mountains. He fell for the petite, fair, and innocent girl at first sight, even though she couldn't see anything. I'm blind. You're at a disadvantage marrying me. It's not too late to regret this. Just wait. I'll never regret this in my life, he whispered as he pressed her soft fingers against his cheek. They lived together for 2 years, and he became the director of a major hospital. They both longed for a child, but it hadn't happened yet. When they got the test results, she clung to him, shy like a child who had done something wrong. It's my fault, isn't it? Her hormone levels were low, making it hard to conceive but not impossible. He smiled and comforted her, though he couldn't hide the disappointment in his eyes. It's no one's fault. A year later, they still had no signs of having a child. He was an only child, and his mother, who already didn't like her, now had more reason to resent her. Every day when he came home from work, his mother would torment him about it. She was too gentle, like raising a cat that only knows how to please you. Eventually, you get bored of it. He grew weary and started dreading coming home. That's when Lynn appeared. Lynn was an intern nurse, young and attractive, very different from his wife. Lynn threw herself at him willingly. His charm was enough to make any girl swoon, regardless of his age. Despite having many admirers, he remained faithful until that night he was drunk and needed an escape. No, he could end things with Lynn, but she was like a drug. One try and he was addicted. Lynn didn't tie him down. With her, there were no torturous words from his mother, yet he didn't know if he still loved his wife. Sometimes he wondered if he confused love with pity. "Are you leaving this late?" She hugged him around the waist, inhaling the masculine scent on his shirt. "Yes, an emergency surgery. Go to sleep." "Your shirt smells different." He froze. It was Lynn's perfume. "But it's nice. Maybe you could buy me some. I like it." She let go of him. The small room was filled only with the sounds of him changing clothes and his footsteps fading away. Lynn met him at the gate with a passionate kiss. "Stop, Lynn. My wife is up there." He pointed to the second-floor window, knowing she always looked out when he left for work. Lynn glanced up but smiled. "Don't worry. Your wife is blind. She can't see anything." Lynn was right. Everyone at the hospital knew about the affair. His mother and sister had their suspicions, but she remained oblivious. The phone rang, interrupting their moment. "Ignore it!" But it kept ringing. He reached for it as Lynn kissed his chest. "Hello? Are you working late tonight?" Her voice was soft. "Yes. Go to sleep." Lynn continued tracing circles on his stomach. "Can you not work tonight? I'm scared alone." She hesitated. His mother and sister were away at a relative's wedding. "The schedule is set. Just sleep." He didn't finish before Lynn pushed the phone away. "I love you. Tonight, stay with me." That night it rained heavily. Thunder woke him. Lynn was still asleep beside him. He quietly dressed and headed home. Halfway there, his phone vibrated with a call from the hospital. A sense of dread washed over him as he answered, his hand trembling. "Sir, your wife, she's been admitted to the ER." The hospital was silent. He rushed, panting, to the brightly lit ER. Her sister sat pale with worry. Before he could speak, she slapped him hard. "Weren't you on duty tonight? Why are you here looking disheveled? His wife was in there, in the room closest to death. Do you know what a blind person lives by? Instinct. She's not stupid. She knew about your affair. A month ago, I took her to the hotel where you went with that woman. Do you know what she said? She said she was glad she was blind, so she saw nothing. That meant it didn't happen. It meant you were still hers alone." Another slap. Hospital staff watched as the esteemed director was struck. Did she know everything? "I went to your house. Your mother and sister treated her worse than a dog. She had no friends. Her phone only had 2 numbers, yours and mine. Yet when she fell, she didn't dare call you." He prayed, tears streaming down his face. After a while, her sister stood up, speaking slowly. "My sister is afraid of thunder. Didn't you know? She fell from the stairs, hit her head on the fish tank, and she was 2 months pregnant." The hospital room felt cold despite the closed windows and drawn curtains. She lay on the bed, pale lips, tears in her sleep. How long had it been since he faced her like this? So long he'd forgotten her smile. He'd been so neglectful he didn't even know she was pregnant. She was so thin, veins visible under her skin. I begged you to come home, right? Now it's gone. It was only 2 months old. She reached her cold, bony hand to his cheek, his lips. It's been so long since you kissed me. He choked on his sobs. He didn't even have the right to apologize. Are you crying? There's nothing left to cry about. You're not wrong. I am. You won't regret marrying me, but I regret marrying you. I'm letting go. Her voice was so soft it could dissolve into the air. She's not responding well. She's resisting the medication. Blood is clotting. 3 doctors rushed in. Heart stopped. Clear. Clear. 54. The colors of friendship. One day, the colors of the world started arguing about who was the most beautiful, the most important, the most useful, and the most loved. Green said, I am the most important. I symbolize life and hope. I'm the color of grass, trees, and flowers. Without me, nothing on earth would survive. Just look at the fields. They're covered in my green. Blue interrupted. Have you thought about the earth? Think about the sky and the ocean. Water is the most essential thing made by clouds from these vast oceans. The sky gives us space, peace, and serenity. Yellow laughed. You all make things too complicated. I'm more practical. I bring laughter, happiness, and warmth to the world. The sun, moon, and stars are yellow. When you see a sunflower, it feels like the world is smiling. Without me, there would be no joy. Orange spoke up. I represent health and strength. I may not be as abundant as you, but I'm the most valuable because I fulfill life's needs. I provide vital vitamins in carrots, oranges, mangoes, pumpkins, and papayas. I appear in the sunrise and sunset. Can any of you match that beauty? Red couldn't hold back and jumped in. I am blood, life itself. I'm the color of danger but also bravery. I bring fire to humans. I fight for noble causes. Without me, the earth would be as empty as the moon. I am the color of love and passion, of red roses and poppies. Purple then joined. I represent power and loyalty. Royals choose me because I signify strength and excellence. No one questions me. They obey. Finally, Indigo spoke softly but firmly. Think of me. I am the silent color, often unnoticed. Without me, you'd all be just superficial beauty. I symbolize thought and reflection, dawn and the deep sea. You need me to balance your looks. I am inner beauty. The colors continued their debate, trying to prove their superiority. Suddenly, a bright flash of lightning lit up the sky, followed by thunder and heavy rain. The colors huddled together in fear. The rain spoke sternly. You silly colors, fighting amongst yourselves. Don't you realize you were created for a special purpose? Each of you is unique and wonderful. The world would be boring without any one of you. Now, join hands and come to me. The colors held hands and formed a beautiful spectrum. The rain continued. From now on, whenever it rains, you will stretch across the sky in your true colors, forming a circle to remind you to live in harmony. We will call it a rainbow. The rainbow symbolizes hope for tomorrow. And so, every time it rains, washing the world, a rainbow appears in the sky, adding beauty to life and reminding us to always respect each other. 55. Listen to the whispers of your heart. Most people are someone else. Their thoughts are someone else's opinions, their lives a mimicry, their feelings a quotation. Oscar Wilde. When reading The Great Gatsby by Scott Fitzgerald, I was particularly struck by the opening. In my younger and more vulnerable years, my father gave me some advice that I've been turning over in my mind ever since. Whenever you feel like criticizing anyone, he told me, Just remember that all the people in this world haven't had the advantages that you've had. He didn't say any more, but we've always been unusually communicative in a reserved way, and I understood that he meant a great deal more than that. Consequently, I'm inclined to reserve all judgments, a habit that has opened up many curious natures to me, and also made me the victim of not a few veteran bores. I also love a detail from the story Doraemon. Whenever Nobita and Doraemon get lost in another world, no matter where they are, there are always characters who look like Nobita, Shizuka, Tsuneo, and Jian, but with different personalities. This always makes me smile. Life is like that too. Somewhere out there, there are people who might look like us. Somewhere out there, there are people who are very different from us. Some people love to gather with friends. Some people love to wander. Some people just enjoy staying at home reading books. Some are tech enthusiasts. Some love antiques. Some need to travel to the ends of the earth to feel fulfilled. Some are content just to step into their backyard, find a new patch of mushrooms after the rain, or a chicken egg hidden in the grass, and that's enough for them. I realize that these excitements can be very similar. Just like people can have very different reactions when standing before the majestic Niagara Falls, one person might jump up in excitement and remember the sight forever, while another might just say, "Big waterfall," and forget about it soon after they get home. Why should we be surprised by that? Why should we get upset about it? Why should we expect everyone to jump up when they see Niagara Falls? We often hear thrifty people criticize others as wasteful. Generous people judge others as stingy. Homebodies look down on those who neglect their families. And adventurous people mock homebodies for not knowing how to enjoy life. We hear these things every day until we get tired and realize that sometimes we need to ignore what others say and learn not to judge others so easily. Years ago, when cars were still a luxury in Vietnam, a friend of mine, after saving up and borrowing money, finally bought one. It was just an old car, but the problem was he was just a journalist with a modest income and still rented a house. His family disapproved, saying he was wasteful. Colleagues whispered that he was showing off. Friends doubted, thinking he was trying to be fancy. He confided in me that ever since he was little, he had always dreamed of sitting behind the wheel, driving through forests and beaches. That dream followed him every day, so he saved up until he could buy a car for himself. Just that. Then he looked at me and asked, "Why should I delay my dream just because I'm afraid of being judged? Why should I live by other people's standards?" I couldn't find a convincing answer to that, so I always carry his question with me. It reminds me that often we worry too much about what others have said, will say, or might say, and we don't dare to live as our true selves and pursue our real dreams. Another friend of mine is dedicated to charity and sharing. Initially, it was out of compassion. Then, it became a joy for herself. Then, it became a debt of gratitude to pay. Then, it became a life to live. She is like a candle burning itself out for others. Yet, many times, I've seen her cry because of what others said about her. Even when we act selflessly, it doesn't mean we can prevent prejudice and malicious gossip. So why not just calmly walk past it and move on? Occasionally, we meet people who think they have the right to judge others based on their own prejudices. People who never accept differences. That's not the worst thing. The worst thing is that we allow ourselves to get caught in that web of prejudice. If our lives are controlled by our own prejudices, it's bad enough. But if they are controlled by others' prejudices, it's much worse. Why can't we stop being afraid and try to listen to ourselves? In truth, everyone has moments when they don't know what the right thing to do is. At those times, my father taught me to remember a very simple rule. First, respect others. Then, listen to yourself. Respect others because life is multifaceted, and everyone has their own way of living. No way of living is the standard to judge another. John Mason wrote a book titled "You Were Born an Original, Don't Die a Copy. I don't know if it has been translated into Vietnamese, but it's a very interesting book. It made me realize that each person is an original, unique, and worth respecting. I always see that principle as the shoes I must wear before leaving the house. Put on those shoes and walk around the world. Go anywhere you want. People are born and die not by their own choice. We are not born with the appearance, personality, talents, or wealth we want to choose. But we all have a unique opportunity to be ourselves. We have a unique chance to live the way we want, do what we believe in, create what we dream of, pursue what we desire, and love who we love. You know, that chance is this life, a blink compared to the stars. So don't let yourself be swept away by the noise. Listen to the whispers of your heart.
If you like this video, please comment 1. And if you don't, comment 2. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time.
56. The New Year Gift. One day, 2 boys were playing when a fairy appeared before them and said, "I have a New Year's gift for you." She gave each boy a gift and then vanished. Carl and Philip opened their gifts and found beautiful books with blank, snow-white pages when they turned the first page. Months passed, and the fairy returned. She said, "I gave you each a book, but now I need to take them back to return to the spirit of time, who sent these books to you." "Can I keep my book a little longer?" Philip asked. "I want to draw something on the last page to remember it by." "No," the fairy said. "I must take it back as it is." "I wish I could see my whole book at once," Carl said. "I could only see one page at a time because once I turned a page, it stuck, and I couldn't open more than one page a day." "Look at your books again," the fairy said, lighting 2 small lamps for them to see the pages as she flipped through. The boys were amazed and wondered if these were the same beautiful books they received a year ago. Pages that were once clean and white like snow now had ugly stains and scratches. Yet, some pages had lovely little pictures. Some were decorated with beautiful, sparkling colors, some with pretty flowers, and others had a bright, elegant rainbow. However, even the nicest pages had some stains and scratches. Finally, Carl and Philip looked up at the fairy. "Who did this?" they both asked. "Each page was white and pretty when we first opened it, but now there isn't a single clean page left in the whole book." "I will explain the pictures to you," the fairy said, smiling at the 2 boys. "Look, Philip, these bright roses on this page appeared when you let the baby play with your toys. And this beautiful bird, it looks like it's singing with all its heart, wouldn't have shown up if you hadn't tried to be good and happy instead of arguing and complaining." "But what made these stains?" Philip asked. "Those happened when you told a lie one day, and this one is when you didn't listen to your mother. All the ugly stains and scratches in both your books came from when you were naughty. Every beautiful thing in the book came when you did something good." "Oh, if only we could have the books back again," Carl and Philip said together. "That can't be," the fairy replied. "Look, these books have dates for each year. Now they must go back to the library of the spirit of time, but I will give you each a new book. Maybe you can make these new books even more beautiful than the last ones." With that, the fairy disappeared, leaving each boy holding a new book open to the first page. On the spine of each book were the words in gold, "For the New Year." 57. I learned how to lie. When I was young, I was taught to always be honest, to never lie to myself or others because honesty is the only bright path in life. Back then, I didn't really understand what honesty or lying meant. I just knew that if my actions pleased the adults and I was praised for being good, then those actions must be honest. But one day, I learned the truth behind those praises. I began to tell my first lies, the most sincere lies of my life. I had a friend who spent most of his time on a small, old boat, fishing and squid catching at sea. He only came back to shore every few months. One time, he went out to sea, and the weather suddenly turned stormy and violent. At home, he had only an old, frail mother. Worrying about her son, her heart condition worsened, and she was hospitalized in a coma. The sea winds howled fiercely. The doctors decided they needed to operate immediately, but they couldn't perform the surgery while she was in such a weakened, unconscious state. In her brief moments of consciousness, she weakly asked if the storm had passed and if her son had returned. Someone from the neighboring village said they found pieces of her son's boat washed ashore. She asked the doctors, but no one answered. I was there, and foolishly, I told her the storm was terrible and would last for days, that the boat was broken, and her son's fate was unknown. The doctors couldn't stop me in time. My story crushed the last bit of strength she had. She gasped and passed away. The doctors were helpless. By chance, I had committed a terrible mistake that I could never forgive myself for. After the storm, my friend survived, saved by another boat. He didn't blame me, but cried over his mother's grave. My stupid honesty had caused an awful mistake. In O. Henry's famous short story, The Last Leaf, a sick girl believes she will die when the last leaf falls from the tree outside her window. But the last leaf never falls. She recovers, not knowing that the last leaf was a fake, painted on the tree by an artist who wanted to save her. So, the truth isn't always what we see or understand. If I hadn't told the mother about the storm and the broken boat, maybe she wouldn't have died. If there hadn't been that fake leaf, the girl might have died from illness and despair. The truth in human life must also mean love. Only what helps people, makes them stronger, and leads them to the light is the real truth. Any actions or words, even if true to our eyes, ears, and knowledge, that weaken others or destroy their spirit are not honesty. If they are the truth, it's the truth of a heartless being. A lie in the name of love can save a person, and a harsh truth can kill. Of course, we will choose a noble lie. However, distinguishing between these words is difficult and depends on each situation. Do you know how to lie sincerely and lovingly? It's simple. Keep a heart full of compassion for life and for others. 58. If I were you. Imagine if you could see everything around you from a different perspective, one that's not quite yours, to better understand your friends. People often say, if only, when something is gone. But what if we could see things differently? You and I, yesterday could be today or tomorrow because we are friends. If I weren't me, if I were you, would I act like you? Maybe, but why not try imagining? What happened to you, me, or anyone else is now in the past. The past can't be retrieved and the future can't be known. But the present is the link between the two. If I were you, I would never hide or suppress my feelings for someone, constantly running from myself, facing countless choices with none being truly mine. If I had to, I'd bury it deep within to face myself more comfortably. If I were you, I wouldn't call my friend a jerk for a reason only you know. Even if forgiven, it creates an invisible rift. A broken glass can't be perfectly mended, no matter how skilled the craftsman. If I were you, I wouldn't hold on to illusions only you envision. I would share them with friends, even if I might face disappointment. By opening up, you gain more from others. If I were you, I wouldn't be mad at my best friend because of a third person, losing a friendship built on sincerity. I would stop expecting others to do things for me before I do things for them. If I were you, I wouldn't let jealousy and selfishness make me forget myself, leading to lonely days. You don't want anyone around because you love yourself too much. If I were you, I'd believe tomorrow will be better than yesterday, not pessimistic about a new day for any reason. If I were you, I wouldn't look for a new haven when the old one isn't steady. Sometimes it's a trend, but losing trust makes it hard to succeed even if you want to. If I were you, I'd avoid unnecessary sensitive thoughts about someone, ending up in a mess. all just to show your admiration for them. If I were you, I wouldn't spend too much time behind four walls and a screen, cutting myself off from the world. There's so much beauty outside to explore. If I were you, I wouldn't point out others' flaws, even as a joke. If I were you, I wouldn't think the line between friendship and love is so thin. If I were you, I wouldn't think about tomorrow if I don't know what to do today. Tomorrow might never come, or it might. But how will you be when it does? If I were you, if it's all just a thought, what has passed, leave something for you, me and our friends, helping us grow. Maybe I'm not as successful as you, can't act like you in some ways, but I imagine being you to understand my friends better and experience life from what I've known. So have you ever thought about not being you, but being me or someone else? Why not give it a try? 59. The birth of a mother. My first child, a daughter, was born on July 27, 2002. I thought I was completely prepared for her arrival. I had read books and articles about childbirth and baby care. Her room was ready and I had all the essentials like a nightlight, diapers, pacifiers, and bath supplies. I felt there was nothing more to prepare. What I wasn't ready for was how much my world would change the moment she was born. The overwhelming love I felt for her brought me to tears. I didn't expect that I wouldn't be able to sing her first lullaby without crying. I had no idea how I would feel when the nurse handed her to me and said, "She's looking for you." The deep blue eyes staring up at me left a permanent mark on my heart. I never knew I could feel so vulnerable because of someone. Taking her to the supermarket for the first time made me feel like a mother bear protecting her cub. Leaving the house without her gave me a heart-wrenching anxiety. Her arrival also changed the way my husband and I saw each other. Giving birth and breastfeeding made me understand my self-worth in a new way. No one warned me that I wouldn't be able to watch the evening news anymore without imagining my daughter's face when hearing about abused children. Why didn't anyone tell me about these things? I felt completely overwhelmed. I never left her without thinking about her, and every little rash made me worry. Could I become the mother I wanted to be for my daughter? I often heard, and now I know it's true, that when a woman gives birth to her first child, there are two births, the birth of the child and the birth of the mother. This birth is something you can never fully prepare for. 60. A letter from heaven. Sally rushed to the emergency room door as it swung open. "How's my son? Will he be okay? Can I see him now?" she asked the doctor urgently. The doctor responded calmly, "I'm very sorry. We did everything we could." Sally questioned silently, "Why do children have to suffer from cancer? Does God not care about them? God, where are you when my son needs a miracle?" The doctor reassured her, "A nurse will take you to see him shortly, before we move him." Sally wanted to tell the nurse that she needed to see her little boy right away to say goodbye, before it was too late. Running her fingers through her hair, Sally hurriedly put on the hair cover the nurse handed her. She whispered, "Jimmy wanted to donate his body to the medical school. He said it might help someone someday, and that's what he wanted." My first reaction was no, but Jimmy told me, "Mom, I want to be useful even when I'm gone. Maybe it will help a boy or girl like me have more time with their family." Sally said, "My Jimmy had a heart of gold. He always thought of others and wanted to help whenever he could." Slowly, Sally walked to the children's ward for the last time, where she had spent over 6 months. She sat on Jimmy's bed, packed up his toys, and silently carried the small bag to the car. As she drove away, the hospital became a tiny dot in the distance. Sally didn't look back, fearing she would turn the car around to see Jimmy again. Driving home was hard, and entering the house was even harder. An empty feeling gripped Sally's heart. She took Jimmy's toy bag to his room, placing everything exactly where it had been. She set his toy fire truck on the bookshelf, Then she collapsed beside Jimmy's bed, hugging his pillow tightly as tears flowed silently. Sally woke around midnight, a letter falling from the pillow. She picked it up and read, "Mom, I know you will miss me, but never think that I'll forget you or stop loving you because I will always love you. I think of you every day and want to love you more each day. One day, we will be together again. If you want to make other kids like me not feel lonely and sad, give them my room and toys. If you give my toys to a little girl, she might not like them, so you should buy her a doll or something she likes. Don't be sad when you think of me. This place is really great. Grandma and Grandpa will meet me here soon, and I'm having fun exploring everything. The angels are very nice, and I love watching them fly. Love always, your Jimmy." When you lose someone, and you think you love them more than they loved you, remember that they are the ones who lost the most. Someday, you may love someone again the way you love that person, but no one will ever love them the way you did. If you find these stories inspiring and they motivate you to take action, please comment 9. If not, comment 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time. 61. Consider this. After Fred Astaire's first screen test in 1933, an MGM executive noted, "Can't act, slightly bald, can dance a little." Astaire kept that note over his fireplace in Beverly Hills. A football expert once said about Vince Lombardi, "He knows very little about football and lacks motivation." Socrates was called an immoral corrupter of youth. When Peter J. Daniel was in 4th grade, his teacher Mrs. Phillips often said, "Peter J. Daniel, you are a bad student. You can't do anything, and you will never achieve anything." Peter remained illiterate until he was 26. A friend stayed up all night reading him the book Think and Grow Rich. Now, he owns the neighborhood he grew up in and wrote the book Mrs. Phillips, You Were Wrong. Louisa May Alcott, the author of Little Women, was advised by her family to become a servant or a seamstress. Beethoven was terrible at playing the violin, and instead of practicing, he composed his own music. His teacher said he had no chance of becoming a composer. The parents of famous opera singer Enrico Caruso wanted him to be an engineer. His teacher said he had no voice and couldn't sing. Charles Darwin, the father of the theory of evolution, gave up a medical career, and his father told him, "You care for nothing but shooting dogs and rat catching." Darwin wrote in his autobiography, "All my teachers and my father considered me a very ordinary boy, rather below the common standard of intellect." Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper for lacking imagination. Before creating Disneyland, he went bankrupt several times. Thomas Edison's teachers said he was too stupid to learn anything. Albert Einstein didn't speak until he was 4 and didn't read until he was 7. His teacher described him as mentally slow, unsociable, and adrift in his foolish dreams. He was expelled from school, and the Zurich Polytechnic wouldn't admit him. Louis Pasteur was a mediocre student in college, ranking 15th out of 22 in chemistry. Isaac Newton did poorly in grade school. The father of sculptor Rodin said, "I have an idiot for a son." Rodin was the worst student in his school and failed the entrance exam to art school 3 times. His uncle called him uneducable. Leo Tolstoy, author of War and Peace, was expelled from college for being unable and unwilling to learn. Tennessee Williams, the famous playwright, was very angry during his time at the University of Washington when one of his plays lost a student competition. A teacher recalled that Williams openly criticized the judges' intelligence and opinions. F.W.W. Woolworth worked in a dry goods store where his employer said he didn't have enough sense to wait on customers. Before Henry Ford succeeded, he failed and went broke 5 times. Babe Ruth, considered one of the greatest athletes of all time, held the home run record but also had the strikeout record. Winston Churchill failed 6th grade. At age 62, he became Prime Minister of England after a lifetime of setbacks and failures, achieving greatness later in life. Richard Bach's book, Jonathan Livingston Seagull, was rejected by 19 publishers. Finally, Macmillan published it in 1970, and by 1975 it had sold over 7 million copies in the U.S. alone. Richard Hooker spent 7 years writing his humorous novel, MASH, only to have it rejected by 21 publishers. Finally, William Morrow published it, and it became a bestseller, an acclaimed movie, and a highly successful TV series. 62. The Inheritance. There was a man who loved art. He was so passionate that it almost seemed like he lived for his love of art. Collecting paintings was his life's goal. He worked very hard to save money to buy more artwork for his collection. He bought many pieces from famous artists. This man was a widower with only one son. He passed his love for collecting art on to his son. He was very proud when his son became a well-known collector, just like him. After a while, war broke out in their country. The son, like many young men, went to join the army. After some time, the story took a turn. One day, the father received a letter stating that his son was missing in action. The father was devastated. It was terrible not knowing what had happened to his son. A few weeks later, he received another letter. This one said that his son had died in the line of duty. The father felt as if half of him had died. It was difficult to keep reading the letter, but he did. It said that his son had retreated to a safe place, but went back to rescue his wounded comrades. He was shot and killed while bringing the last one back to safety. 1 month later, on Christmas Day, the father didn't want to leave the house. He couldn't imagine a Christmas without his son. While he was at home, there was a knock on the door. A young man stood there with a large package. The young man said, "Sir, you don't know me, but I'm the person your son saved before he died. I'm not rich, so I didn't know what to give you to repay what your son did for me. He told me that you love collecting paintings, so even though I'm not an artist, I painted a portrait of your son for you. I hope you'll accept it." The father took the painting inside and unwrapped it. He took down the most valuable painting above the fireplace and replaced it with the portrait of his son. With tears in his eyes, he said to the young man, "This is the most valuable painting I own. It's worth more than all the other paintings in this house." The young man stayed with the father that Christmas, and then they parted ways. A few years later, the father became very ill. News of his death spread far and wide. Everyone wanted to attend the auction of his art collection. Finally, the auction was announced for Christmas that year. Collectors and museum representatives were eager to buy the famous works. The auction house was packed. The auctioneer stood up and said, "Thank you all for coming. The first painting will be this portrait." Someone shouted, "That's just a portrait of his son. Why don't we skip it and get to the valuable ones?" The auctioneer said, "We will start with this one first." The auctioneer began, "Who will bid $100? No one responded, so he continued, "Who will bid $50? Still no one answered. He asked, "Will anyone bid $40? No one wanted to buy it. The auctioneer asked, "Does anyone want to bid for this painting?" An old man stood up and said, "Can you sell it for $10? That's all I have. I was the old man's neighbor and I knew the boy. I watched him grow up and really loved him. I would love to have this painting. Is that okay?" The auctioneer said, "Going once, going twice, sold for $10. Cheers erupted as everyone said, "Now we can get to the real auction." The auctioneer said, "Thank you all for coming. It's an honor to have such esteemed guests here. Our auction is now over." The crowd was angry. "What do you mean it's over? You haven't auctioned the famous pieces yet." The auctioneer replied, "I'm sorry, but the auction is finished. Here is the old man's will. Whoever buys the portrait of my son gets all the other paintings, and that's the final word. 63. What a hassle to babysit. It was a beautiful morning, and Mother Kangaroo was getting ready to go to the other side of the forest to pick raspberries for tonight's dessert. Seeing his mom leaving, Baby Kangaroo pouted, "I don't want to stay home alone." Mother reassured him, "I've asked Mr. Tiger to watch you today." Baby Kangaroo protested, "I'm big now. I don't need a babysitter." Mother said sternly, "You need to listen to me and stay home." Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. Mother opened it, and Mr. Tiger bounced in, saying, "Hello, everyone. I'm Tiger, ready to serve." Baby Kangaroo mumbled, "Hi, Mr. Tiger. I'll be back soon. Goodbye." Mother kissed Baby Kangaroo and walked out the door. Mr. Tiger called out, "Don't worry, babysitting is what tigers do best. Ha, ha, ha." While Mr. Tiger was thinking about what to do first, Baby Kangaroo quickly slipped out the door. "I can go into the forest by myself. I don't need a babysitter," he thought, and eagerly headed into the forest. Baby Kangaroo was so busy looking at the ground, collecting interesting leaves, that when he looked up, he realized he was lost. He started to cry, "Where am I? I want to go home. Boo-hoo!" Meanwhile, Mr. Tiger was still figuring out what to do for the day. Finally, he decided, "I'll ask Baby Kangaroo what he wants to do, but where is he?" Mr. Tiger looked all around the house and then dashed out onto the road. On his way, Mr. Tiger bumped into Mr. Owl. "Sorry, but I'm in a hurry. Have you seen Baby Kangaroo?" Mr. Owl smiled kindly and said, "I'll help you find him." After searching for a while, Mr. Owl and Mr. Tiger found Baby Kangaroo. Baby Kangaroo stayed close to Mr. Tiger until they were near a bridge close to home. Suddenly, Baby Kangaroo jumped ahead. "Come back! You're going the wrong way!" Mr. Tiger shouted. Baby Kangaroo turned back but soon sneaked towards the bridge again. "This way is faster. I'll get home first," he thought, and ran off. A few minutes later, Mr. Tiger heard a loud cry, "Help! Help me, Mr. Tiger!" Mr. Tiger rushed to the sound and saw Baby Kangaroo stuck in a hole in the bridge. "I knew there was a hole in this bridge," said Mr. Tiger, explaining, "That's why I was taking the longer, safer route." Just then, Bear and Piglet arrived. After hearing what happened, Piglet advised, "You should listen to grown-ups to stay safe." But Baby Kangaroo was too hungry to listen anymore. While Mr. Tiger was preparing lunch, Baby Kangaroo couldn't wait. He grabbed a slice of bread and climbed up to reach the honey jar. Suddenly he slipped, and the jar fell, covering him in honey. Mr. Tiger quietly cleaned Baby Kangaroo up and made a sandwich for lunch. Sitting at the table, Baby Kangaroo looked down and mumbled, "I'm sorry, Mr. Tiger." "It's okay," sighed Mr. Tiger. "Let's clean up, and then we can take a nap." Even though he was worried his mom would be mad, Baby Kangaroo told her everything when she got home. She wasn't angry. Instead, she smiled and said, "I'm proud of you for admitting your mistakes. I have a special treat for both of you." Baby Kangaroo and Mr. Tiger beamed with joy at the sight of the basket full of raspberries. 64. Raindrops or Tears. He was a very charming man. With his handsome appearance and carefree personality, countless girls pursued him, even though they knew he was with her. She was a gentle and kind-hearted girl. She didn't have the sharp, modern beauty of the girls chasing after him. Even though she knew he had a flirtatious nature, she still loved him deeply and faithfully. She loved him with a mix of anxiety and pain. She loved rainy days and enjoyed walking in the rain. Every time she would step out of the umbrella to dance and laugh in the rain, he wanted to join her in what she loved, but she always stopped him. "Why won't you let me join you in the rain?" he asked, puzzled. "Because I'm afraid you'll catch a cold," she gently replied, holding his hand. "If you're afraid of catching a cold, why do you still do it?" he asked. She never answered this question, just smiled and looked into the distance. In the end, he gave in, feeling that as long as she was happy and smiling, he was content. But their happy times didn't last long. He fell in love with another girl, a stunning beauty with a modern style that attracted many suitors, and he was no exception. He became infatuated, trying to win over the new girl, forgetting about her. One evening, while they were having dinner, he suggested they break up. Despite feeling a bit guilty, and not quite understanding his feelings for her, he didn't realize he was chasing something superficial and losing something precious. To his surprise, she accepted his suggestion quietly and thoughtfully. She had long known he wasn't fully hers. He was like the wind, never staying in one place for long. That night, he walked her home for the last time. It started to rain. She pulled her hand away from his, ran ahead, and spun around to welcome the cool raindrops. Watching her small, beloved figure, he felt a mix of shame and sorrow. For the first time, his love for her surged. Ignoring her request, he walked into the rain, gently kissed her, and said, "I'm truly sorry for hurting you, but the days we walked in the rain together were the happiest for me." She began to cry, her tears mixing with the rain. He hugged her tightly, feeling her small frame tremble with pain. After a long silence, he finally asked, "Why didn't you ever let me join you in the rain?" After a long pause, she softly answered, "Because I didn't want you to see that I was crying." Her answer, mixed with the rain, broke his heart. He realized how deeply she had loved him, enduring pain and torment. He had unwittingly made her heart weep. Now, understanding her true feelings, he knew it wasn't too late to make amends. All wrapped up in rain and tears.
If you like this video, please comment 1. And if you don't, comment 2. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time.
65. Listening. At midnight, a phone rang in the middle of the night, waking up a mother. As we all know, anyone who hears a phone ring at midnight usually gets annoyed and mumbles while looking at the clock. But that night was different, and so was the mother. Midnight. Worrying thoughts filled the mother's mind. She picked up the phone. "Hello?" Suddenly, she thought of her daughter. She held the receiver tighter and glanced at her husband, who was now awake, wondering who was calling. "Mom?" A voice on the other end, barely more than a whisper, was hard to place, but it was clear the girl was crying. It was very clear. The whisper continued, "Mom, I know it's late, but don't say anything. Let me talk. You don't need to ask me anything. Yes, I've been drinking. I just got off the highway and something isn't right." The mother stayed silent. "I'm scared. I just wondered if it would break your heart if a police officer came to the door and said, 'I died in an accident. I want to come home. I know running away was wrong. I know you must be worried. I should have called days ago, but I was scared. The mother gripped the phone tightly, swallowing her sobs. She suppressed the ache in her heart. Her daughter's face appeared vividly in her mind. She whispered, "I think—" "No, let me finish. Please, Mom." The girl's voice begged, sounding like a desperate, unprotected child. The mother paused, thinking about what to say. The girl continued, "I've been bad, Mom. I ran away. I know I shouldn't have drunk so much, but I'm so scared, Mom. So scared." Her voice broke with sobs again. The mother covered her mouth, her eyes full of tears. Her hand touched the phone, making a noise like it was being hung up, causing the girl to cry out, "Are you still there? Please don't hang up. I need you. I feel so alone." "I'm here. I won't hang up," the mother said. "Mom, I should have told you. I know I should have told you. But when you talk to me, you always tell me what to do. You say you've read all the psychology books and know how to teach me, but all you do is make me listen. You don't listen to me. You never let me tell you how I feel. It's like my feelings don't matter. Do you think you have all the answers just because you're my mom? Sometimes I don't need answers. I just need someone to listen to me." The mother was silent. She looked at the psychology books on her bedside table. "I'm listening to you," she whispered. "Mom, on the highway, I couldn't control the car. I saw a big tree blocking my way. I wanted to crash into it, but I felt like I could hear you saying not to drive after drinking. So I stopped here. Mom, because I still want to come home." The girl paused. "I'm coming home, okay?" "No," the mother interrupted, feeling frozen. "Stay there. I'll call a taxi to pick you up. Don't hang up. Talk to me while you wait for the taxi." "But I want to come home now, Mom." "Please do this for me. Wait for the taxi," the mother pleaded. The girl was silent. It was terrifying. No response. The mother closed her eyes, silently praying while the father called a taxi. The girl remained silent for a long time, but she didn't hang up, and neither did the mother. "The taxi is here, Mom." The girl's voice suddenly broke the silence, and a car could be heard stopping. The mother felt relieved. "I'm coming home now, okay?" A click was heard, probably the phone hanging up. Then silence. The mother got up, her eyes full of tears. She walked into her 16-year-old daughter's room. The father followed and asked, "Do you think that girl knows she called the wrong number?" The mother looked at her daughter sleeping soundly in bed and replied, "Maybe she didn't call the wrong number." "What are you doing?" her daughter's sleepy voice asked as she opened her eyes and saw her parents standing by her bed. "We're practicing," the mother replied. "Practicing what?" the girl mumbled, almost drifting back to sleep. "Practicing listening," the mother whispered, stroking her daughter's hair. 66. A Father's Boundless Love. When I was just learning to walk, my family faced a major upheaval as my parents decided to separate because their love for each other had faded. I lived with my mother and could only see my father twice a year. Those times were the happiest moments for me. My father taught me how to swim, how to sail around the islands, and drift peacefully on the calm sea. He tried to do everything I wanted as if that was his way of making up for the time he couldn't spend with me. From the age of 12, I never went out with my father again. When I turned 14, my mother remarried, and that marked the beginning of a series of painful and unhappy days for us. My stepfather often beat my mother, and once she had to be hospitalized. One day, I heard the sound of dishes breaking, glass shattering, followed by my stepfather's angry yelling and hitting my mother. I ran downstairs to find him drunk, slumped on a chair while my mother lay collapsed on the sofa. He saw me, and I knew I was next to face his wrath. I ran out of the house as fast as I could to escape that miserable place. I went to a public phone booth and called my father. "Dad, please help us. I don't know what to do." I desperately begged on the phone, hoping to hear my dad say, "Hang in there, honey, I'm coming right now." But I was completely disappointed when he apologized, saying he couldn't come. My heart felt heavy, and I was very angry with him. Despite having no money, no relatives, and no one to turn to for help, I vowed never to return to that house. In my desperation, I remembered my mother's friend and asked her for help in finding a job to support myself. That's how my independent life began. 3 months passed without any contact with my father. Every time I thought of him, my heart ached. The image of him abandoning us during my most fearful moments still haunted me. One day, I received news that my father was dying and wanted to see me. I went to visit him and saw him lying in a hospital bed, frail and weak. Seeing him like that, I couldn't hold back my tears. It turned out my father had a terminal illness that was slowly taking his life. That's why he couldn't come to help me when I needed him. I deeply regretted not caring about him all this time. I had only wanted him to fulfill my wishes without realizing that he also needed my care and comfort. He held my hand to his cheek and said, "I know you've suffered a lot, but I couldn't help you." At that time, all I wanted to say was, "Hang in there, honey. I'm coming right now." But I couldn't say it. Tears streamed down his face. I broke down in sobs. My father ran his thin fingers through my hair and comforted me. In that moment, I felt his love for me was as strong as ever, just like when I was a little girl. So, dear friends, a parent's love for their children is boundless and everlasting. However, we don't always understand it. Sometimes we may feel angry and resentful because our parents can't meet our expectations, but there might be touching stories behind their actions, like the one we just heard. Always love and care for your parents because no matter what happens, their love for you remains unchanged. 67. Two beggars at a wedding. On my wedding day, my mom asked me, "Who are those two people who look like beggars sitting over there?" I looked over and saw an old man staring at me with an old woman beside him. When they saw me looking, they quickly lowered their heads. I didn't know them, but they didn't look like beggars. Their clothes were quite new. My mom thought they looked like beggars because of their hunched backs and the walking sticks beside them. Mom said that since Tianqi was an orphan and didn't have any relatives coming to the wedding, if they weren't acquaintances, we should ask them to leave. These days, beggars are quite cunning. They often wait outside restaurants pretending to be relatives to get free food at weddings. I said, "I don't think that's the case, Mom. Let me call Tianqi and ask." Tianqi seemed startled and nervous, causing the bouquet in my hand to drop. He finally stammered that they were his uncle and aunt. I glanced at Mom, silently telling her we almost chased away his relatives. Mom said, "Tianqi, I thought you were an orphan. Where did these relatives come from?" Tianqi, looking down, explained that they were distant relatives who hadn't been in contact for a long time. Since a wedding is a big event, he felt it was a pity that no family would attend, so, leaning on Tianqi's shoulder, I gently reproached him for not telling me about his relatives sooner. We should have set a table for them since they were family. Tianqi stopped me, saying they would be more comfortable sitting where they were. During the reception, his uncle and aunt remained at their table. When we went around to toast, Tianqi hesitated but then quickly pulled me past their table. I looked back and saw them with their heads bowed. After thinking for a moment, I pulled Tianqi back and said, "Uncle, Aunt, we would like to toast to you." They looked up, surprised. Both were quite old, at least 70 or 80. The aunt's eyes were deep and unfocused. She was blind. I waved my hand in front of her, but she didn't react. She was indeed blind. "Tianqi, uncle, aunt, this is my wife, Xiao Ji. We toast to you," Tianqi said in their hometown dialect. "Ah, ah." The uncle stood up shakily, holding onto the aunt with his left hand and lifting the glass with his trembling right hand. His palm was covered in yellow calluses, and there was dirt under his thick nails. Years of hard work had caused their hunched backs. To my shock, I realized his right leg was missing. I couldn't help but wonder about their hard life. "Please, sit down," I said, helping them. The uncle sat down unsteadily. The aunt started crying silently, and the uncle patted her back gently. I wanted to comfort them, but Tianqi pulled me away. I told Tianqi, "When they leave, we should give them some money. They both have disabilities. I can't imagine how hard their life must be." Tianqi nodded and hugged me tightly. First Lunar New Year's Eve after our wedding. Tianqi said his stomach hurt and didn't join us for dinner, going straight to the bedroom. I asked my mom to make some porridge and followed him. Tianqi lay on the bed, eyes still wet with tears. I said, "Tianqi, it's New Year's Eve. You shouldn't skip dinner with the family and stay in the bedroom. It feels like my family is mistreating you. Every holiday you say your stomach hurts. What's really going on?" Tianqi was silent for a long time, then said, "I'm sorry, I was thinking about my uncle and aunt and my deceased parents. I was afraid I couldn't hold back my emotions at dinner and would upset everyone, so I said I had a stomachache." I hugged him and said, "You're silly. We can visit them after the holiday. I want to see how they live too." Tianqi said, "No, the mountain roads are tough. You'll get tired. Let's wait until the roads are better, maybe when we have kids, and then we can go." I wanted to say, by then they might not be around, but I didn't. Instead, I suggested sending them some money and supplies. Mid-Autumn Festival of the second year. I was on a business trip and couldn't make it home for the Mid-Autumn Festival. I missed Tianqi and my parents, so I called Tianqi and talked for a long time. I asked him how he managed to sleep when he missed me. Tianqi said he would go online or watch TV, and if that didn't work, he'd lie there with his eyes open thinking of me. That night, we talked until my phone battery died. I wanted to tease him a bit, but didn't expect, lying in the hotel bed, looking at the full moon outside the window, I couldn't sleep. Tears streamed down my face. I missed Tianqi and my parents so much. I thought Tianqi might not be able to sleep either, probably still online. I got up, opened my laptop, and created a new account called Listening to Your Heart to tease Tianqi. Sure enough, he was online, and I messaged him. I asked, "Why are you online on a family reunion night like this?" He replied, "My wife is away on a business trip, and I miss her too much to sleep, so I'm online." I liked his answer. I typed, "With your wife away, you could find a fling online to chat with." After a long time, he replied, "If you're looking for a fling, I'm not the one. Goodbye." "Sorry, that's not what I meant. Please don't be mad," I quickly messaged him. After a while, he asked, "Why are you online?" I said, "I'm working away from home and missing my parents. I just finished talking to my boyfriend, but still can't sleep, so I came online to distract myself." He replied, "I miss my parents too, but they passed away. I can't visit them anymore." "Your parents passed away?" "I'm sorry to hear that," I said. He continued, "Let me tell you a story since you're listening to my heart. Keeping it inside for too long can make you sick, but talking about it might help. We don't know each other, so just treat it as a story." Then I learned the story Tianqi had kept hidden for so long. Tianqi's story. 30 years ago, my father was nearly 50 and still unmarried. He was crippled and poor, so no one wanted to marry him. One day, an old beggar with a blind daughter came to our village. The beggar was very ill, and my father took them in. The old man never recovered and passed away. My father then married the blind girl. 2 years later, I was born. Our family was poor, but I never went hungry. My parents couldn't farm and had no income. They shelled corn for others, working until their fingers were swollen and bleeding. They bandaged their hands and kept working the next day. To send me to school, they kept 3 hens, 2 for selling eggs and 1 for me to eat. Mom said she heard that city kids ate eggs and were smart, so I should eat eggs too. They never ate the eggs themselves. Once I saw Mom licking the leftover egg white from the shell, and I cried. After that, I refused to eat eggs until my father, angry, scolded my mother. Eventually, we compromised, and we shared the eggs, though my parents only took a nibble. The villagers never called me by my name, always referring to me as the crippled man's son or the blind woman's child. My parents would fight anyone who called me that. Mom, unable to see, would throw bricks in their direction, shouting that although they were disabled, their son was healthy and capable, and that no one could look down on him. In my county's high school entrance exam, the crippled man's son came first, making my parents proud. The villagers covered my tuition fees. When I left for the city, it was my father's first time leaving the village. I couldn't stop crying as I boarded the bus. My father, leaning on his cane, wiped my tears. "Study hard in the city. Find a job and a wife there. If anyone asks about your parents, tell them you're an orphan. If they know about us, they'll look down on you and you might not find a wife. I wouldn't be able to face our ancestors if that happened." "Dad," I said, "how can you say that? Only ungrateful people would deny their parents." Mom added, He's right. Do you remember how your classmates treated you when they found out who we were? Even the teachers looked down on you. If you bring a city wife home, say we're your uncle and aunt." She cried as she spoke. Father said, "Better not bring her home at all. If you do, your mom won't be able to hide her feelings, and everything will be revealed." Then he handed me 10 boiled eggs and walked away with Mom. I stood there, tears streaming down my face. Mid-Autumn Festival call continued. By now, I was tearing up. Disabilities were not their fault, it was fate. But they had given me a wonderful Tianqi. I felt angry that he underestimated me. "So, you told your wife they were your uncle and aunt?" I typed. "I didn't believe it at first. The person you marry is marrying you, not your parents. Why shouldn't they? Accept them." But in 10 years, my parents never visited me at school. In my first year of work, I wanted to bring them to the city, but they refused. They didn't want to bring shame on me and ruin my chances of getting married. My family lives in a remote mountain village and doesn't want to leave. Even though Mom is from the city, it means nothing now. Eventually, I met a girl, and when I thought it was serious, I brought her home. She left without even eating a meal, saying she couldn't live with people like my parents. She said our genes must be bad and that our children would be unhealthy. I was furious and told her to leave. At home, Mom cried while Dad scolded me for not listening to them. Later, I met my current wife. I love her dearly and fear losing her. Her family is well off and her relatives are influential. Having learned from my past, I was too scared to be honest. But during holidays, I always think of my parents and feel a heavy weight on my heart. "Have you never told your wife?" "She might understand," I asked. I never dared to. Even if she accepted it, I doubt her parents would. They are very respected. If my parents came, it would be humiliating. I can only visit them secretly during business trips. Thank you for listening. I feel much better now. I couldn't sleep after that. They say children don't resent their parents, but what have we done? I understood Tianqi's dilemma and his parents' pain, but they didn't know they had trapped me in a cruel situation, bringing his parents home. Early the next morning, I went to the director's office and asked him to handle the rest of my work. I had something urgent to do. Then I packed a few things and rushed to the train station. Luckily, I caught the first train. The mountain road was indeed difficult. My legs quickly grew sore, and my feet swelled up. I had to stop and rest in the hot midday sun. I drank almost all my water and didn't know how much farther I had to go. I took off my shoes, burst the blisters on my feet, and cried from the pain. I wanted to call Tianqi to take me back, but I pressed on. I stuffed some wildflowers in my shoes for padding and kept going. Thinking of Tianqi's parents working hard at home gave me strength. When I finally reached their house, the sunset painted the sky red, illuminating an old apple tree in their yard. Under the tree, his father, who looked much older than at the wedding, was shelling corn. His cane rested quietly by his leg. His mother was on the ground gathering dried corn. It looked like a painting of the most perfect parents in the world. Step by step, I approached them. When his father saw me, the corn fell from his hand and he asked in shock, "Why are you here?" His mother asked, "Who is it?" "The wife of Tianqi," his father said. "Oh, where?" She reached out, searching for me. I knelt down, took her hand, and tearfully said, "Dad, Mom, I'm here to bring you home." His father coughed and tears streamed down his wrinkled face. "I knew our son wasn't raised in vain," he said. His mother hugged me, her tears soaking my neck. As we left, the villagers set off fireworks, celebrating. I was proud of his parents once again. When Tianqi opened the door and saw his parents standing beside me, he was stunned and silent. I said, "Tianqi, I'm the one who read your story. I brought our parents home. How could you leave them in that remote mountain?" Tianchi cried, hugging me tightly, his tears soaking my neck like his mother's. Father and mother are sacred words, encompassing all the world's love, worthy of a lifetime of devotion. 68. Remember, me. That day will come when my body lies on a white-sheeted bed in a hospital filled with the living and the dying. Soon, doctors will decide that my brain has stopped working and that, in essence, my life has ended. When that happens, don't try to keep me alive with machines. Don't call this bed a deathbed. Instead, call it the bed of life and take my body away to help others live better lives. Give my sight to a man who has never seen the sunrise, a child's face, or love in a woman's eyes. Give my heart to someone whose own heart causes them endless pain. Take my blood and give it to a teenager pulled from the wreckage of a car so they might live to see their grandchildren. Give my kidneys to someone who depends on a machine to live week to week. Take my bones, muscles, every fiber and nerve in my body, and find a way to help a disabled child walk. Explore every corner of my brain. Take my cells if necessary. Let them grow so that one day a mute boy will shout and a deaf girl will hear the sound of rain against her window. Cremate what is left of me and scatter the ashes to the wind to help the flowers bloom. If you must bury something, let it be my faults, my weaknesses, and all my prejudices against others. Give my sins to the devil. Give my soul to God. If by chance you wish to remember me, do it with a kind word or deed to someone who needs you. If you do all that, I will live forever. If you find these stories inspiring and they motivate you to take action, please comment 9. If not, comment 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time.